Greetings, friends, that gaming author here, and welcome to the third prologue chapter of our ongoing D&D campaign. I am the aforementioned gaming author, or just Jacob, and with me I have a special guest who, you'll notice that the quality is a little different because we're not on Discord this time. She actually lives in my house. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name's Kayla.
Yeah.
Kayla, there's nothing else, to say.
Fair enough. Yeah, she is our third party member so far out of 6. I think we'll only do one more prologue chapter before jumping into the main campaign because we have 2 other players, though I'm not quite sure where they are on their character builds, so we'll have to see. Hang on, let me go live on Twitch real quick because it is live, but I'm not sure it is online. There we go. Alright, now you decide to work. Thank you, PC Jump. Alright.
I'm doing test rolls.
Fair enough. So yeah, I decided, since we're already doing this every Wednesday, might as well just continue the tradition. And this time it's on an actual tabletop, sort of. It's like
close enough.
It works. It's a table. We have the mic set up. I got an impromptu DM screen to hide my rolls because I've got a lot of mischievous crap planned for this story. So.
Don't remind me.
Hello, Kim Squid. Welcome to the stream. Oh my gosh, I clipped the audio there. Might actually have to turn my mic down a bit. Alright, hopefully that's too good. Can't get too loud. I'm actually gonna... There we go. It's not like we have music in the background, so mic audio should be fine now. Alright. Anything you'd like to say or any questions before we begin?
No, I've seen at least the beginning of everybody else's. I didn't want to have anything spoiled for myself in terms of them, so...
Fair enough.
I watch Critical Role, so I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Whereas I've done 2 of these, and I still have no idea. Alright. So, anyway, we will get to describing your character soon. I'm actually going to go ahead and max the screen so I don't see chat, because I'm going to get distracted if I do. So, beginning of your story. You have been on the run for who knows how long at this point. In terms of what you're on the run for, only you know so far, because you have to keep it a secret from everyone. What happened was too big a deal to let public, even though that news is already kind of public, but you don't want anyone knowing you were part of it. So, you've left your home in the province of Ishtorai, which is just west of Orlivia, which is your destination. And from what you recall, you heard a voice letting you know where to go. It's been guiding you this whole time, and it brought you to a train station. And yes, we have train stations in D&D, don't judge me. It's my world. It brought you to this train station where you, depending on what you decided to do, may or may not have gone with a false name and registered, and you're taking this train from Ishtorai all the way to the province of Orlivia. And here you've been on the train for the past 3 days, kind of averting your gaze away from anyone who may recognize you. And on that note, would you actually like to go and describe your character?
Yes, I can go for it to the best of my ability. I'm not freakishly tall or freakishly short. I'm a female with short, light brown hair and a kind of like, it's like a bob, but like not a bob. It's fairly short. I'm like kind of pale, but not pale. And my eyes are like a mixed blue, kind of green.
Alright, that makes sense. So, let me go ahead and take a look at this. I really should have looked at your passive stats beforehand, but whatever. We never go into these prepared, so who cares?
Who's ever prepared?
Exactly. So, your story begins when it's about midday, the sun's pretty high in the sky. You've been traveling for quite some time, just kind of gathering food whenever you can, and just keeping an eye out while you're riding the train. And as you go along, you look out the window, you just see, for long stretches of time, you see a lot of desert just kind of spread around, and it's slowly evolving into like this red canyon with massive red plateaus kind of on each side of the train tracks. And as you pass through, the air just kind of drops colder as you're more shaded from the desert sun. And while you're on this train, what would you like to do?
Hmm. Can I just like look at like and see if there's more people like around me on the train?
Oh, yeah, go ahead and make a perception check.
I don't think I
Oh no, what is it?
have a natural one.
All right.
That just shows how great this is gonna go.
Oh
Let
boy.
me check and see just to make sure whether or not I add anything or not.
Oh yeah, perception. Yeah, go ahead and give that a look. Let's see.
No.
Well, I mean, your perception would be a +2 at least.
Oh yeah. So it's a 3.
Oh, great start. That is fantastic.
Man.
So you're kind of looking around, but you're kind of you're spacing out. You've been on the train for 3 days, and you're kind of tired, and you're not really paying attention. And yeah, there are people around you, but you don't really care enough to like go into or look at like whether or not they're paying attention to you or anything. And you just kind of space out, and you're looking out at the window, and there's kind of like a bird flying by. And yeah, not really any particular details you notice.
That's awful.
And right now, you're just kind of sitting in the general admittance cart.
Hmm.
And the train's just riding along. What else would you like to do?
Well, based on that roll, it didn't give me much to work with. Jeez, I can't believe. I'm not using that dice.
Let's go into dice jail.
Yeah. Can I try to like? I'm gonna talk to myself and like see, cause there's the voice, but I don't know who it is yet.
Exactly. So, what, are you gonna try to address the voice?
Yeah.
All right. What do you say?
This voice that's been guiding me. Who are you?
You kind of wait a little bit and actually go ahead and make a religion check. So, since you're proficient in this, you can add +2 and then another +2 on top of it.
Okay. Math. I got a 15.
Ooh, not bad. All right. So, you don't necessarily hear any voice, but you do feel a sense of familiarity. It's the same feeling you've gotten when this voice has spoken to you before. It's kind of like a gentle warmth in a way, and like without words, you can feel something say something along the lines of an old friend who's been waiting to meet you, and that's kind of what you pick up based on just kind of that sense of familiarity.
Interesting. I don't know. Can I like? I wanna get up and kind of like roam around.
All right. Easy enough. So you go ahead and just get up out of the chair and you're walking around. Do you try to kind of conceal yourself or just casually walk around?
I don't want to be like, cause I feel like if I'm hidden more, then it just makes it kind of more obvious that I'm hiding myself. But like, I don't want to be like super obvious. Like, I get, yeah, I want to kind of be hidden.
All right. So with that being the case, go ahead and for this, make a stealth check. Which I mean, you have a +0, so it'll just be a straight d20.
Yeah.
What is it?
What do you think?
Is it a 1?
Yes. I rolled another natural 1. This is awful.
So, thankfully, as far as you can tell, based on your last perception roll, no one's paying attention, so it doesn't matter ultimately. So you're just kind of walking, and like you you very conspicuously kind of have your hand over your cupped over your face, and like you occasionally peek out from the back of it, and like you see people staring. They're starting to look at you, and you just kind of turn away and you're walking.
That's awful.
So as you're walking through the train, you go ahead and head over to the next car back, and just based on your passive perception, which isn't all that great, you there aren't as many people here, but like for the most part, everyone seems quite exhausted. You actually do recognize a few of the faces in here. Like there's one particular halfling who's just kind of sitting there. She's got kind of like this uh, long, kind of salt and pepper hair, kind of pulled into a tight bun, like with strands kind of hanging loose. And she's got like bags under her eyes, and like her eyes are like super silver, almost like crystalline. And she's kind of gazing out the window, and she's spacing out.
I'm not gonna disturb her. She looks very peaceful.
All right, so do you just continue forward?
Yeah.
All right. So as you pass forward, this halfling woman just suddenly perks up, and she looks at you, and she's like, "I've seen you before."
Oh, have you now?
Yes, I have. Excuse me. Refresh my memory, please. What is your name?
Cassie.
Cassie. I see. And she just kind of plays with the loose strands of her hair, and she goes, "You've been on this train a while, haven't you?"
I get on and off sometimes.
All right. She kind of has a look of not necessarily skepticism, but she's kind of scrutinizing to figure out kind of what sort of person you are. Hang on, let's see here.
You roll a natural one.
Go ahead and this isn't necessarily any sort of check, but I do want you to go ahead and roll just a straight d20. I just want to see something.
15.
Ooh, alright, just barely. So,
Don't even.
so, she just kind of leans forward and she's like, "You're from Ishtarai, aren't you?"
I travel there sometimes, you know.
Make a deception check. With a disadvantage because she rolled a 16 on that d20.
Come on, man. I gotta roll twice and take the lower one, don't I?
Yeah.
3.
She just kind of shakes her head and she's all, I do know some things, but I'm not going to tell anyone, so you don't have to worry about that. And she just kind of sighs and she's like, "Well, I suppose I understand why you wouldn't be so trusting. But anyway," she just kind of goes ahead and reaches her hand out. And she's like, "My name's Chisadri. I am a diviner who also comes from Ishtorai, so I am well familiar with the political goings on, and as such, I know exactly who you are, Cassandra."
It's been rough.
I can tell it's a complicated matter, and I know that what the media says is incorrect. And she just kind of goes ahead and turns around and looks out the window, and she's like, "Well, if you need anything, let me know."
Alright, cool beans. I'll keep you in mind.
Alright. With that said, what else would you like to do? You're in another train car now, just a little past the one you were just in.
Can I go? I want to go farther in. Well, I want to look around and see if are there like more people other than just her in the...
More or less, none that really catch your eye, just kind of based on your passive perception. A lot of the other people, they just kind of look drained and tired. Like they're probably on a rather long commute heading home after a. Like you can tell from a lot of the people on this train, they're workers from Ishtora, and they live in the western provinces. Like some of them, or Olivia, and some of them kind of have the uh, kind of like the I don't have my map with me. I don't remember, but there is a province south of Orlivia, and they all kind of have the sun-drenched kind of skin tone of people who live down there because it's much hotter there than it is in the northern provinces. But yeah, other than that, no one else that really catches your eye. Although, go ahead and make a perception check for me.
I'm gonna use one of the other diagrams, and maybe we'll get some better rolls here. It's a freaking 8.
All right, so
This is crap.
so actually, surprisingly, that is kind of what you needed. You do see that in one of the back cars, there are two elven men, and they're both clad in these robes in very familiar colors. And one of them, like, has his he has this blonde hair kind of pulled back, and his eyes, like, you don't even see the whites of his eyes; they're just pure black. And he just kind of looks at you, and he's got a kind of stone cold face. He's not really like scowling, but he's just kind of staring with his face, and he nudges the other guy, and he starts whispering something. You don't hear what it is, but the other guy looks at you, and he's got like long brown hair, and he's also got these pure black eyes as well. And he looks up at you, and he just kind of smiles and nods, like almost kindly, but go ahead and make an insight check for me, actually. And you're proficient in this, so you add 4, and then you add +2 to that.
Hell yeah. I'm gonna need it. Let's not roll like a 1 or like, ew. Oh. Yes. You said 4.
Yeah, yeah. So like, if you look at your skill sheet, you have +4
Yeah,
to
I'm
insight,
looking at it right now.
and then it's proficient, which is what that dot means. So that means you add your proficiency bonus, which is +2.
Holy crap. That's 21.
Oh yeah, you know right off the bat, these men are wearing the garb of mages from the kingdom of Liadon, which is where you come from, or however you pronounce that name. Because
Yeah.
all right, Liadon and Ishtora, these are men from the kingdom, and you can tell they recognize exactly who you are. What do you do? Right now, they're just sitting there, and they aren't doing anything. They just kind of have their hands folded in their lap, and the one with the long brown hair just kind of nodded and smiled.
I'm gonna do like double peace sign, turn back around, and then go like, yeah, like wave my hand back, and then walk like, kind of like, not just like walk, but like kind of like strut, like back into the other cart.
Go ahead and make a confusion check. Now, totally. For this, I would say, you know what? Why not? Let's go ahead and roll a intimidation check. Oh, that's a -1.
Yeah. And with how I'm rolling, it's not gonna go very well. It's a 9.
9. I mean, you turn your back before you can even tell if anything happened. But I mean, you successfully go back to the cart you were just sitting in, and you go ahead and you kind of return to your seat, and you're sitting there, and you look back at the door, and you're kind of like ducking behind your seat now, and you kind of wait there for a couple minutes, and then like a couple minutes turns into like 15 minutes, and as far as you can tell, those two mages don't seem to be like giving chase or anything.
Some cool men right there. Some cool men.
Alright, so with that being the case, you continue riding along the train, and it's about late afternoon now. You've been on for probably a few hours since it was first noon, so it's probably around 4 p.m. this time around, and you're kind of sitting there, and go ahead and make a religion check for me.
I'm pretty Intendant.
Yep.
So it's that plus 2. Okay, right?
Yeah, so it's 2 plus 2.
I'm horrible at this.
Oh, jeez, what did you roll?
I rolled a 5, but 5 plus 4 last time I checked is 9. So it's better than nothing.
Yeah, so you don't hear a voice, but you do hear a faint, like, you hear a woman's voice just kind of briefly. You don't, like, she's trying to speak, but you don't hear it anymore. And, like, suddenly chills just kind of run down your back. And you have a feeling that whatever this voice is telling you that something's wrong. Let's see. Oh, okay. So you have this sense of foreboding, and the train is kind of riding into this canyon, and it's been pretty narrow the entire time you've been here. But now the red mountainous plateaus are beginning to kind of spread out a bit, and they're going from red to kind of a grayish color as they're crossing the border from Ishtorai into the province of Orelivia. However, as it's entering this wide open space, you suddenly hear a massive. The train skids to a halt and starts shaking, and up ahead you can see flames kind of growing up at the front, and people are running in, and they are just covered in soot, and some of them are bleeding, and you can see the front of the train is currently exploding as you speak, train car to train car. I'm going to want you to go ahead and make an athletics check with disadvantage because
Holy
this
crap.
just took you by complete surprise.
Holy crap. No, the next one's gonna be so awful.
Oh, jeez, what did you do? Oh, yeah.
Yes, the first one was a natural 20, but this one is a 19.
Oh, shit, nice. So as soon as you start picking up on what's going on, you get out of your seat and you dart right to the next car. Like, this is the car that her name, Chisadri was sitting in, and she is still kind of staring spaced out at the window, but she has this look of like her mouth is just open, her eyes are wide, and she's just shocked, and while everyone else is still panicking, she's just sitting there. And go ahead and make a quick perception check for me with disadvantage because everything's in a red.
Oh.
You can reroll, yeah.
Yeah. My perception's awful. Just freaking awful. That's a 12.
Alright, so you're looking around the crowd and everyone's freaking out. You don't see the 2 cloaked mages anymore, but you do see Chisadri.
I'm gonna I'm gonna wave my hand at her, like, hey, something's wrong, we need to go, now, we need to do something.
Alright, and the entire time you're trying, actually go ahead and make a perception check for me. Or no, not perception, my apologies, persuasion, which you are proficient in, so you can add that +2.
So it's 3 since.
Mm-hmm.
Why are my rolls so awful? That's an 11.
Alright, so while you're trying to urge Chisadri, you're like, come on, we gotta get out of here, and she just kind of turns towards you, and she's like, what's going on?
I was in the car before us, ahead of us, and just people were panicking, and we need to go, now. I don't know exactly what's going on, but we need to go, now.
And she just kind of looks at you and nods, and she looks back out the window, and she's like, I see. More flames start rising. The car you were just in exploded. And this entire time, you're trying to get Chisadri to go with you. A human woman with kind of this short hair just kind of cropped down to her neck, and she's got a sword at her side, and she's wearing leather armor. She runs in, and you can see her face is covered in soot, but she seems mostly unscathed. She runs up to you, and she kind of grabs Chisadri by the arm, and she looks at you, and she says, Cassandra, right?
Yeah.
Alright. Come with me. And she goes ahead and books it to the back of the train. Do you follow?
Yeah.
Alright. Go ahead and make another athletics check.
I don't know if this die is good or not. Ugh, it's a freaking. Is that a 9 or a 6? It's a 6, I think. No, it's a 9.
Okay,
It's a
so
9. It's at the top.
so you do go ahead and follow after her, but right as you do, the explosion hits the car you're in, and like a bolt of fire shatters the ceiling and goes right through the floor, and it begins to spread. And the door to the other car is open, but with the force of the explosion, you kind of lose your footing and you fall into the other car, and you take
Holy crap.
3 points of bludgeoning damage.
Gotcha.
All right, so you quickly get up out of the state, and you see that people are in a panic. Like, there are like parents holding their children up as they're trying to get to the back of the train, and you see the short-haired woman holding Chisadri, who's still kind of in a daze and looking around. And the short-haired woman turns towards you, and she's like, "Come on, come on!" So do you continue following as she makes her way to the next train car?
Yeah.
All right.
Another one?
No, you don't have to worry about it this
Thank God.
time. Thankfully, you got into this car pretty quickly. So you book it across, and finally, you make it to the last car. And it's kind of an open air train car. And the train is moving a little slower because presumably the conductor and the engineers are probably dead considering the damage. And you're just kind of sitting there, and you've got all these other people around you, and everyone's just kind of murmuring in this panic. And you look up in the sky, and you see the two mages floating above the train. One of them, their hands are enveloped in fire, and he's about to send another fireball down into the car you were just at. Another massive explosion. This one is even great enough to force the back car off of the hinges that connect it to the train. And now you guys are just kind of skidding to a halt. And this short-haired woman, she kind of lifts Chisadri up into her arms, and she's like, "Come on, follow us." And she jumps off the train. Do you follow?
Holy crap. I mean, this woman is the only good thing that's coming out of this situation right now. I mean, yeah, and she's got the girl. Yeah, I'm gonna follow after her.
All right, so make actually, yeah, go ahead and make an acrobatics check this time.
I don't have disadvantage on that.
Nah, just a straight roll.
That die is. I rolled a 2.
So.
Freaking, this is awful.
Oh, geez. So as you go ahead and, like, you're looking, and the train's still moving. Like, even though it's slowed down, it's still moving quickly, because it's a freaking train. You go ahead and you grab onto the bars, and you jump down, and it is not a very graceful landing. Actually, yeah, no, it's not a very graceful landing, and you just kind of tumble down, and you take 1 more point of bludgeoning damage.
I had to stop, drop, and roll. There were flames.
Yeah. So now, as you land, the ground is pretty hard. It's very rocky. It's you're essentially on top of one of the plateaus, but it's like low enough to where there are still high red and gray mountains surrounding you. And the short-haired woman holding Chisadri is still running, and she's heading to the west into the mountains. And right now, you're out of the train. There's still people kind of panicking, sitting at the end of the train there. But you see the blonde-haired mage. He's charging up another fireball. He aims, shoots, with the passengers still on it that you saw. The train car is reduced to nothing now, and those passengers are gone. There's no saving them. And with this, what do you do? You just saw that short-haired woman book it into the west into the mountains.
I'm like, alright. So I'm like looking at like the rubble of like what just happened with the explosion or whatever. And then I'm like looking behind me like towards where like the woman like ran, and I'm like, quick prayer, like over like those people, and then I'm like, all right, and then like I just like dash like to go follow the lady.
All right. So with that being the case, you go ahead and run. Do you even pay attention to the mages in the sky, or are you just straight running?
Nah, I'm just out of there trying my best to
All right.
follow after.
That totally makes sense. So you go ahead and book it into the mountains, and the terrain is getting a little rougher as you head into the mountains because the Red Canyon has ended where this last explosion occurred. And as you're running through, you're in these gray mountains, and now like the ground is starting to get a little softer. There's a bit of grass below you, and there's some trees kind of starting to pop up as you're running into not necessarily a very dark forest, but it's a very well shaded one, which thankfully conceals you from the mages, but they did see the direction you ran.
Okay.
So,
That's whatever.
with that being the case, you run to catch up with this woman holding Chisadri, and you're running for about like 5 minutes. It's quite a long run, and then you finally catch up to her, and she's slowing down, and she's kind of halts to a walk and lets Chisadri down, and she just kind of lowers down, puts her hands on her knees, and she's like, I am not as fit as I once used to be. And Chisadri is kind of looking around, and she's just like beaming, looking around at the forest. She's like, you guys have been on the train surrounded by desert and mountain for days, and now you're finally seeing some green. And she's like, this is what I like about Olivia. Anyway, the three of you so far have escaped essentially what was an entire massacre of everyone on this train. And you kind of look at yourself, and you're also covered in soot just from the explosions and the impact and everything. And you're just with this mysterious short-haired woman and Chisadri. What do you do?
I'm gonna just like, so like I'm still covered or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna like, I got like, it's like on my face. I'm gonna like take like 2 fingers and just like do like what is it like how like in football they have like the 2 lines
Yeah.
on their cheeks, and then I'm just like gonna pat and like wipe my hands and kind of like try to regain some like I don't know what I don't know the word for it, like composure.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I'm just gonna look at the lady and be like, how do you know my name?
The short-haired one, or okay,
I know
the Chisadri, yeah.
I know she knows my name already. I mean, and then the other she at least I have her name. I don't have this lady's name.
So the short-haired woman, she just kind of smiles and laughs a little, and she's like, "Well, because it's my job. You don't have to know mine for the time being, but you will at one point."
All right, I'll give her.
All right, so she kind of looks around in the forest and she goes, the Haladrian Mountains. There should be a bit of an outpost here. And she kind of looks at you and she goes, are you willing to take a bit of a longer journey?
I mean, I wasn't necessarily headed anywhere, so hey, for sure. It's whatever at this point.
All right. She goes ahead and nods, and she just kind of pulls Chisadri by the shoulder because Chisadri is still just kind of staring up into the forest, like with her eyes all wide. And she's just taking everything in, and yeah, the three of you go ahead and make your trek into this forest. And as you make your way through, the trees start getting a little tall. Like you, you haven't necessarily been around this kind of place because you were raised in a vastly different climate over in Ishtorai, but this is a very green area, and it's a very fitting border between Orlivia and Ishtorai because, one side's desert and mountain and the other side is like just a forest clearing essentially. And for some reason the words wouldn't come out. So you go ahead and you're walking through this forest. Is there anything you want to look for or do while you're just making this journey?
Um, mm, can I like? I wanna try to. Okay, so I'm still following
Yeah.
them or whatever, but kind of like quietly, I'm gonna um go and like hope that whatever like feeling or voice like gave me that feeling on the train, I'm gonna be like, I don't know who or what you are, but thanks.
All right. And you just, because you made that prayer earlier, you do hear the voice again. She just goes, "Don't thank me yet. This journey's only begun. Just make sure you tread carefully."
Thanks. Thanks.
All right. I should have pulled up this person's character sheet. The short-haired woman just kind of turns around and she goes, "Hey, who are you talking to?"
I don't know.
and and then she Sadri goes, "Oh, I completely understand. I hear a lot of voices in my head. I don't know who half of them are."
I like you.
She Sadri goes, "I like you." And then the short-haired woman just goes, "I don't understand why I'm doing this." uh, you guys continue the walk, and it starts lasting quite a bit. You've after that, just the craziness on the train and like this long trek. You are starting to get tired, and the sun is beginning to set a little bit. And the short-haired woman just kind of looks around, and she goes, "Maybe the outpost was further than I thought." And she kind of looks at you, and she goes, "Do you think we should stop, or should we stop and make camp, or should we just go ahead and push forward?"
I want to just like how are they looking? Do they look like?
Go ahead and make an insight check.
Because I feel like if I ask her like straight up, she's not gonna tell me whether or not she's actually hurt in any way. So okay, I'm good at insight. So all in all, it's +6. So that's what? That's 13.
All right. So far, other than the fact that everyone's still kind of covered in soot, the short-haired woman, she doesn't really look much different than she did before. She's like from your perspective, looking kind of healthy, I suppose. And she saw Dree. She's still got bags under her eyes, and she's just you can just even with not a great role, anyone can tell she looks ready to pass out at any time. But like she's still kind of looking around at her surroundings. Like even if she was gonna try to sleep, she would not fall asleep at all. She'd just be looking around anywhere or anyway. My goodness, English.
I got you. I got you. Let's see. Just checking something.
Hmm.
I'm gonna like look at her and go and kind of like point like slightly at like not even like point but like knuckle like point and I'm gonna go I'm I could be doing better and I could go for a rest, but if we need to go, I'm kind of like pointing at Tiandri, kind of like trying to get her to look at her and notice that she's exhausted. But I'm like, if you're good, if we're all good, I'm good.
And Chisadri goes, "Oh no, I'm fine. Though, did Did you see the unicorn in the mountains?
There was a unicorn?
And Holly goes, no, no, no. They were extinct a long time ago. And then she just kind of turns towards you and she goes, just admit if you want to rest, we can rest.
Alright.
All right.
Let's rest for a bit.
All right. So you go ahead and just kind of sit down, and the moment that everyone sits down, Chisadri lays down and immediately passes out.
Of course.
And the other woman, she goes ahead and she kind of like, you didn't necessarily see it before, but she does have a bag at her side. She goes ahead and opens it and reaches in way deeper than it looks like she should be, and pulls out like a bundle of firewood and tosses it out. And she goes ahead and does the classic like rubbing a stick to cause friction, and then once the spark hits, and then you got just this gentle crackling fire.
She's like freaking Bing Bong from Inside Out.
She goes ahead and ties the bag up and goes ahead and just kind of sits back down, and she kind of leans back and looks up at the sky. And now it's gotten relatively late. You can't really see the sun anymore. The sky is still kind of blue, but like you can see stars starting to pop up, at least through whatever sky you can see, because leaves from the tall trees are blocking most of it. But now you're just at this campfire, and this woman she just kind of looks around and she goes, "Why don't you get some rest? I think I could stay up and keep watch for a while."
I look at her and I'm like, do I know whether or not, and like, I know, but do I know whether or not the mages actually saw me?
Like, your character?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because you did see them before you booked it. Like, after, like, you were in a wide open space when they exploded the last car, so they would have definitely seen you running.
Okay. I look at her, I'm like, good. I think I may have been seen back there.
And for a moment, she just kind of freezes. And she's like, okay. By whom exactly?
You didn't see the guys in the air, like the guys casting all that fire and explosion?
Well, I know they were there, but I wasn't aware they saw you. Is that somehow important?
Hey, I'm just saying, they had devilish intent. They killed everybody on that train. Well, minus us, apparently. But just thought it was good for you to know. And I just like turn away and like try to like hone in like before I go to sleep.
Alright, and she just kind of nods and doesn't really say anything else. So yeah, you go ahead and go to sleep. We won't mark this as a long rest quite yet, but let's see.
I ain't using spells. Only thing I'm worried about is what my HP look like now.
Alright. So your sleep goes uninterrupted for the most part, save for some brief glimpses of this wide open space, kind of like you kind of catch glimpses in your sleep of this coastal area. You're kind of standing in the sand and like you see the ocean kind of going forward and then backing out. Like they're not really waves so much as it is just the ocean kind of going in and then receding. And you don't see the sky or anything because like other than the sand and the ocean right in front of you, everything else is just completely white. Like it's almost like tunnel vision in a way. You're only seeing this. And you occasionally feel that warm, familiar feeling you've gotten before when you hear that voice speak to you. And other than that, you don't really feel anything else. So, night comes to a close. This short-haired woman and Chisadri have exchanged watches for the night and decided to go ahead and let you rest. And when you wake up, you can go ahead and mark the long rest, so you have your hit points back.
That's bomb.
Yeah.
Is there a button for that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're looking at it from the mobile version.
I mean, I didn't use anything else. Push come shove, I can just add my health back.
That's true, but just for the sake of kind of getting used to it, I'll go ahead and find it in the app here, because I know
Well, it's not on the app. It's the website.
Oh, the website. Well, you know, like the mobile version.
Yeah.
All right. Oh yeah. So if you're on your main character page, go ahead and click your, like where it has your name, and it'll bring down a drop-down window, and yeah, long rest is there.
Yes, that's bomb.
Yeah, I figured like once you start using spells and everything, that is going to be really useful to note.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna remember that. I'm gonna press the button. Ooh, I'm gonna press the button one more time. That way my brain remembers.
Good idea. And we'll get used to it. Like, this campaign's probably going to be a really long one anyway.
Very cool beans. I got that. Woo.
Alright, let me refresh and make sure it shows. Yes, it does. Perfect. So, as morning comes and you wake back up, you definitely feel like you've had probably the best night of sleep you've had in quite some time, given the circumstances. Like, you don't know if maybe it was that vision or whatever, but even though you slept on the ground without really anything else, you wake up feeling nice and refreshed. Although, I do want you to go ahead and make an actually make a dexterity saving throw.
Okay.
So it looks like it's +0, so it'll just be a straight roll.
Oh, I'm praying over my dice. Because my rolls have been absolutely atrocious. Yay. It's a 15.
Ooh, alright, not bad. So you kind of hear this, like this bird screech, and the moment you do, you quickly roll away, and you see this kind of red-looking, like, hawk with, like, this really long, sharp beak that kind of points down, dig into the ground with its beak wide open, right where you were laying, and it bites into the dirt and just kind of pulls away and kind of darts back. And you look, and you see that Holly is already in battle with these things, kind of swinging her sword, and, like, there's a swarm of them. There's probably, like, 8 of these hawks, and thankfully Holly is cutting them down left and right. And by the time there are only, like, 4 left, she turns towards you, and she's like, well, do something. So I want you to go ahead and roll initiative.
Yay! A battle! I'm ready!
Alright.
11.
Not bad, not bad. Oh! The short-haired woman rolled way worse.
Oh no.
Alright, I need to actually take note because we have multiple parties here in this battle. So, you said you rolled 11, right?
Yes.
Alright, so you're 11. And then, let's see. Oh.
Hey, at least we're both rolling like crap. So.
Yeah. Yeah, not so great, though, because the enemies are kind of rolling really good.
That's horrible. The people I need to roll well.
Oh, never mind. One just rolled a 1.
Yes. Yes.
Alright.
They take extra damage because they roll fast.
Alright. And then, yeah, that was that.
D6s are the regular die, right?
Yeah.
I'm
All
just
right.
getting ready.
Oh yeah, which is really good because one of the enemies did roll one number higher than you. So
I call BS.
they are going to go ahead and thankfully they're towards where Holly is and they are not in range of you, so they are going to go ahead and make an attack on her. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. +4. Oh, shit.
Don't kill my party member.
Hang on, do you even equip? That's my question. Okay. So he does hit the short-haired woman, and let's see, how much damage is that going to be? Alright.
I have 2 shots, yes.
Oh, wow, I'm glad that didn't hit you. Just dealt 6 damage.
Oh, hell yeah. Hit the lady. Not me.
Alright, so this first, this first red-looking hog goes ahead and dives down and just kind of clamps his beak right onto this woman's shoulder and kind of pierces her armor a little bit and kind of scrapes, and she just kind of pulls back and grabs her shoulder, and you can see she's like not necessarily bleeding, but the beak did go through and hurt her quite a bit.
Mm.
And with that, your turn is next, and just to let you know, so you have how much movement? 30 feet. All right, and you do have 2 hawks, one to your left and one to your right. One of them is about 7 feet away, and the other is about 12 feet. But they are still both looking at you. So what would you like to do?
How many of them are there in total?
There are 4. 2 of them are trained on the short-haired woman. 2 of them are trained on you.
Are they like airborne?
Yes, they are, but they're within your range. So even though they're in the air, they're not necessarily like flying. So they are kind of like around where your height would be because they're both preparing to go ahead and attack you. So so if you were to attack with melee, they would be in your range.
Okay, just asking the questions here. Asking the questions. Is one necessarily farther or closer?
Yeah, so one is about 8 feet away, the other is about like 15 feet.
Okay. On the one that's closer, I wanna move into melee range.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And take a swipe at it with my mace.
So you move within melee range, which is real easy because that's just 3 feet, and you go ahead and take a swipe. Go ahead and roll for attack. So with your mace, oops, wrong character sheet. So that'll be a d20 plus 2 to hit.
Okay.
What is it?
Well, I rolled an 18.
Ooh, all right.
Plus 2 is 20.
All right, not bad. That most definitely hits. Roll damage, which looks to be just a 1d6.
Okay, regular die. There's the one.
1 damage. All right. So let me go ahead and.
It's like, okay. It's like I rolled super high for my attack, and he's like, "Hey, you want to do 1 damage?" It's like that's a little too high for you. Look, at least I hit it.
All right. Hey, so you go ahead and you like close the distance and you. But like, as you go, you kind of reel back to like build up your strength, and you swing, but like you hit the beak instead of the actual head, so it's like it's enough to hurt it a little bit, but like you did actually kind of crack the beak a little. Like you had a good impact, but like it wasn't enough to deal like fatal damage. All right, so that is. Hang on. Do you have any? Whoops, wrong button. Bonus actions. If you have another weapon, you can attack with another weapon.
I mean, the only other weapon I have is my crossbow.
I mean...
My short bow. Which one is it? I don't remember. I don't have it equipped, though. I mean, whatever.
Oh, I mean, like, we can go ahead and, actually, yeah, no, that's fine. Oh, yeah, it looks like you have a crossbow. If you wanted to equip it and use your bonus action to attack, I'll allow it.
Okay, if I can do that, I want to shoot the other one on the other side. Can I do that? Or can I not do that since I'm engaged with
I think, yeah, since you're currently engaged with this one.
I get it. I'm just asking.
To anyone watching, we are still new to the rules, so I apologize if I'm getting things wrong. We're just going to kind of be making up house rules as we go, because we're more about story, gosh dang it.
Nah, I think I'm all good. I want to, like, can I move out of the way a bit? Like, away a bit?
You totally can if you want to. About how many feet do you want to move? Because you still have about 28 feet of moving, of, like, distance you can do. Or 27, because you used 3.
I wanna try to close the distance between me and the lady.
Alright,
so maybe, like...
So she's about 20 feet away, so you can do that no issue if you want.
I don't want to bring all of them over at the same time, no. So, like, maybe just, like, half that. So I just want to get, like, 20 feet closer to her. Well, not 20, 10.
10. Okay, so easy enough. You go ahead and, while keeping your eyes trained on this hawk, you go ahead and move 10 feet, and does that end your turn?
Yeah.
Alright. Sounds good. So, next in the round is the short-haired woman here, so she is going to take a swipe at the one targeting her with her rapier.
Where's the other one?
I'm going to use this dice for her. Oh, shit. She's got a +9 on her hit. That's awesome.
Somebody needs to be hitting. I mean, I did.
Alright, so she most definitely hits, and so for that damage, D8 plus 4. Don't think I saw. There we go. Oh, alright. Well then. She goes ahead and with no issue, she still got her sword in hand. She looks up at the hawk and right through the skull, pulls it out, blood just kind of splatters out of the head, and the hawk drops dead. So now there are only 3 left.
Ew.
Alright, and then
That's nasty.
She is going to go ahead and run towards the one you were just fighting. And hang on, wait a minute. Let's see, what else did I give her?
I want her to close the distance. I want her to notice that I closed some of the distance.
Oh yeah. She does kind of like look at you acknowledgingly, and she heads towards the one that you hit for 1 damage, and she is going to, like, with the right hand, she's holding a rapier with the left hand, she's going to go ahead and grab a dagger and not necessarily throw it because she's getting within melee distance, but she's going to go ahead and try to stab that one in the head. And let's see. Oh, not as good, but still hits because she's got a +9 bonus to her attack.
Hell yeah.
So, and these things only have an armor class of 12, so she definitely hits. And let's see, the dagger deals. All right, 1d4 plus 4.
Go, lady, go. Woo.
All right, and
I hit 1. I did 1.
That is, let's see, 5 damage. Oh, so close. So she goes ahead and stabs the one in front of you. She doesn't necessarily stab it, though. The hawk kind of grabs the dagger with the beak, and she has to shove it away, and she slices its stomach instead. And she does slice it really good, and, like, this hawk, like, is barely able to fly, but it is just barely hanging on to life. Alright, let's see. So she killed the one.
We still got 3 more. I mean, one is badly injured.
Yep. All right. And so there was.
If only I dealt a little bit more damage.
So the one that was far away is going to go ahead and close the distance, and since you're closer, is going to go ahead and make an attack on you. That is a 14 to hit.
My armor class is 18.
Oh shit! All right, so that totally misses. So it goes ahead and dives towards you, kind of screeching, and like you just kind of back away from it, no problem. And so
I got shield. I'm like, no, no.
So that brings us back to the highest one, which is going to go ahead and fly towards the short-haired woman and make an attack on her.
Don't hit her.
Oh,
do it.
It does, because it rolled. I think that's the second time it's rolled a 17 to attack, and then it will. Let's see.
Let her be.
Let's go ahead and roll damage. 5 points of damage. 5 points of piercing.
She's gonna need more help than I am after this.
So this one just kind of flies in, doesn't even open its beak. It just kind of flies in and like kind of lifts its head and hooks the beak into her neck, and it cuts it a little bit, but not much. And she just kind of goes ahead and tears the beak out and tosses it. And now it is your turn. So you've got one trained on you and one trained on her, and then a third one which is barely flying and just is kind of grasping at its stomach. So what would you like to do?
This one that's damaged doesn't seem like it's gonna do much at the moment. The one that just attacked her, it's within melee range, right?
Oh yeah, since you guys have closed the distance, and now you've got these 3 hawks surrounding you.
Okay. I'm gonna take another spot at it. No. No, that's over. I feel like that's. I'm like trying to figure out whether or not I want to use a spell. We're all like super close though.
True.
Just to get it out of the way, I'm gonna cast Guiding Bolt.
Yeah.
On the one that just hit her.
Alright, so on that one. Alright, I see. So go ahead and roll attacks. That'll be d20 plus 4.
Oh. That's 9. So 9 plus. I have 4 plus 4. So that's what, 13?
13 just hits. Nice.
Oh my gosh.
Go ahead and roll damage. So, holy shit. Is that real?
Yes. I'm a cleric.
All right, go ahead and do it.
That's why it's. Oh no! Too many dice. I'm not gonna pick them up. These are gonna count.
All right.
That's a 4 plus 1 plus 2. Wait. Okay, 2. That's 9. 9.
Yeah, no issue. You freaking fire this guiding bolt and just envelops this hawk for like a brief second before just kind of bursting it. The body explodes and it's there aren't even remains dropping. This bolt just went right through it and it's gone. You only have 2 more, this weak one and the one that's currently trained on the short-haired woman. Is there anything else? Well, I mean, I think since you used a spell, it's not necessarily there's not really anything else that can be done. But that does use up
Yeah, I used it.
Okay, good. You already understand this more than I do, to be honest.
I mean, it literally, right next to it, it says cast, and then you just press the button, and then so now I only have 1 slot left.
Alright, I gotcha. Alright, so now there are 2 left, and the short-haired woman is going to go ahead and
finish off the one in front of us. Finish it.
She's she's not too concerned with the weak one. She's going to go ahead and take a swipe at the one that's currently targeting her, which would be... that's caught. Shit. Oh, that's also caught.
Come on, roll.
All right. 12 plus 9, that most definitely hits. And then that'll be
Hell yeah.
D8 plus 4.
I can't let her take all the credit.
She actually also just dealt 9 damage, just like you did.
Yes.
So she goes ahead and she takes a swipe, like, it's a real clean swipe. She goes, ping, and cuts the head of this beast right off and just kind of flops down onto the ground. And that one is down. And now all that's left is for this little weak one. And he looks at you two, and he's hell-bent on killing you guys. He's going to go and attack you with a disadvantage because he can barely move. Oh, yeah, I think I know it's going to be. All right, he rolled a 1. He just kind of flapping his wings, and he tries to, like, peck right at you, but completely misses. And top of the round, it is your turn. What would you like to do?
I'm going to take my mace and just, like, hit him. Like, hit him.
All right, go ahead and roll attack.
Ugh. That's what? +2? If I remember correctly, I don't have it up. Okay, yeah, it's +2.
Yeah, +2.
Well, I rolled a 10, so 10 plus 2 is 12.
That just hits. So, how do you want to finish this poor thing off?
I'm gonna be nice and just like, so like, I'm gonna take my mace and kind of like a fly swatter, just like go above it and like hit it like towards the ground, and like be like, you deserve better, and just like take my foot and like turn away and just like kind of like crush its head.
Aw, okay, so yeah, easy enough. You do that, and it's kind of crying out a little bit and it's in pain, and then as you like kind of hear its bones crunching, like it just doesn't make any more sound, and you finished off the last of them, and you're essentially surrounded by like all these hawk corpses now, and they're all just dead. And Chisadri is just kind of, she was barely paying attention, but she turns around and she goes, oh, excuse me, and then the short-haired woman just goes, don't even worry about it.
I was gonna say, where was she the whole battle?
She was spaced out. She didn't like, care about a thing.
I like turn over towards Chiadri and I'm like, these damn trees, man. These damn trees.
She goes, don't insult the trees. And then the short-haired woman goes, well, that was an exciting morning, I would say. What say you, we continue our way to this outpost?
Yeah. I wanna check and see how she's doing.
Alright, go ahead and make a, just because it's checking physically, go ahead and make a perception check.
Gotta switch back over. Nah. We're back to this part. Okay.
D&D Beyond, everybody.
Oh, that's a 14 plus 2, which is a 16.
Alright, so...
My math is good.
You look at her, and she looks, like, just kind of busted up, but, like, the way she carries herself and the way, like, just how quick and powerful she is in battle, like, you can tell that whatever injuries she sustained are nothing to her. Like, she just kind of dusts off a little bit of the blood on her neck, and, like, she's still standing strong and fit. Like, she has, like, I guess to put it bluntly, no need for healing, essentially. She is perfectly fine.
Hey, look, I just don't want my party members to die.
Alright, so yeah, no, she's totally fine, and Chisadri is totally fine, too. She was not even in the battle. Like, just, it's actually kind of interesting. You notice that the entire time you guys were fighting, none of them even once turned towards Chisadri, even though she was in the middle of the battlefield. So,
Can I like? Can I like? I know they're just birds, but like, I wanna check them.
Like,
Investigate.
all right, so
Investigate.
yeah, go ahead and make an investigation check.
Just to see if like, maybe you never know. Maybe they came to like send a message. Like, fuck.
What'd you roll?
Well, I rolled. You know what? Actually, investigation. Why am I rolling so many ones?
Oh,
That's
God.
a natural one.
All right. Yeah, I mean,
that dies dead.
going to dice jail. That's what you're doing.
Oh,
You look at the bodies of these hawks and like
them
you're
birds.
them some birds. You're still kind of just beat and flustered from the battle, and like you can't. Your vision just kind of blurs, and when you kind of try to get close, like you can smell the stench of death, and you're like, "Oh no, thanks." Which I mean, isn't very becoming of a cleric necessarily, but it's just
It's because of what happened with my dad.
yeah, that's actually a very good point, which is still secret, but you know, and I, but
That's why.
anyway, you're checking the bodies, and Chisadri is just kind of looking at them, and she goes, "These, I haven't seen these in a long time." And she kind of picks one up, and she's like holding it by the beaks, like the wings just kind of fall limp, and she's like examining it closely, and she's like, "Hmm, yes." And she kind of tosses it like it's garbage, like, and she walks up towards the both of you, and she clasps her hands, and she goes, "Well, is everyone doing all right?"
I'm all good. You apparently know what these are. What? They just tried to attack us in our sleep. Are they usually this hostile?
And she kind of spaces out. She's just kind of staring at you, like with this blank stare, like she's not even listening, like she's kind of partially asleep still. And she like for a second, and then she goes, "Oh yes, 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 these are very hostile. You see, these are what do you call them in your language? Bloodhawks, I believe. They they like to dwell in dark spaces, so they do often attack when it's night. But and she kind of looks around, and you look around too, and like the sun's up, so it's like, well, oh dear, that doesn't quite go along with my analysis. And then the short-haired woman's like, "We get it. You're the weird monster fanatic. Can we keep moving on, please?"
Yeah, I just information for later. Keep in mind. We can go.
All right, so you go ahead and start walking, but like Chisadra is still kind of staring at the bodies, and so you kind of have to grab her wrist and pull her along as you go ahead and follow the short-haired woman further into the forest. You guys walk for about 20 minutes, and like you're making some headway. Like you're starting to get to a clearing in the forest where you start to hear water running in the distance, and you see this river approaching, and go ahead and make a quick perception check.
These were my good die. This red one has been doing me well. Yes. That is a 17.
Nice. So
I'm getting good rolls now.
so
rolling ones.
you're kind of you, the short-haired woman, and Chisadra are kind of walking side by side, and as you're heading towards this river, you not only see a human-made bridge made out of various wood, like there's some darkened mahogany, some like kind of light oak, and they're all kind of aged but like reinforced with a really thick and really strong rope, as well as like metal bolts under the bridge to like keep it sustained. But beyond the bridge is what's noteworthy.
You can do beyond. Yeah. Gotcha.
Hey. You do notice some buildings in the distance. They're kind of like they're not really big buildings, but like they're these houses made of like red brick, and they've got like these steel roofs or roofs, whatever. And you can see kind of smoke billowing out of chimneys. And the closer you get to this bridge and you look, you can see there's this like entire small settlement. It's like it's not necessarily a village or a town, but there are people out and about and just kind of walking around in this village. It's probably uh, about a quarter of a mile away. It's not really that far, but you can see. And the short-haired woman just kind of gestures towards it, and she goes, "There's our destination, the Haladrian Mountain." And she goes ahead and crosses the bridge. Do you follow?
She's taking Jihadri with her, like
Oh,
she's
well,
falling behind, or
well, now she's walking because you kind of dragged her along, so she's finally like actually properly following along, so she's good.
is she following after the lady?
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I'll go.
All right. So you go ahead and kind of follow a little behind. You cross this bridge, and as you get to the other side of the bridge, you notice that there are less and less trees. And now, like the sky is more clear, but because it's like a river grassland kind of place, it's not the heat of the desert that you've been in for such a long time. It's very cool, and like the air is very mellow. You can hear birds singing and like chirping in the trees. Thankfully, none like the ones you fought, but like just kind of regular birds, kind of chirping, and
Just like I need some meat.
and then like as you get closer to this little settlement, you begin to kind of hear the chatter of multiple people. And as you approach, it's very open air. There aren't like any gates. There aren't any guards standing by. It's just you're walking along the grass, and suddenly, excuse me, the path kind of lifts up, and you're on a cobblestone street now. And you walk into this village, and there are about like a total of 8 buildings. A few of them you can tell are houses just by the way they're designed. Like they've got windows with like you know outdoor windowsills where they've got like potted plants sat down. There are kind of dogs playing in the yard, and
I want to go over and like pet one of those.
oh.
I'm kidding.
And you go ahead and enter, and as you're walking through, you see there are people in this settlement kind of waving to the short-haired woman. She's just kind of waving back, and she's like, "Hello, hello, it's been some time." And as she's leading you through this village, and she looks up at the sky with kind of she was smiling, looking at all the villagers, but like her smile kind of fades as she looks into the sky, and then she doesn't look at you, but she goes, "You mentioned that those mages saw you, right?"
Yeah, like way back when, maybe a little.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. Anyway, that is another topic. Follow me. And she goes ahead, and she's heading towards one of the larger buildings. It's not necessarily made of brick, but it's almost entirely made of iron and steel. And it's like, it doesn't have one of the V-shaped roofs like the other buildings you've seen. It's like kind of like a flat one. And it's a very rectangular building made of really shiny steel and iron. And outside of it, outside of it is like this cloth awning with kind of like striped patterns of like reds and purples and yellows, and below it is this wooden table. And like as you're approaching this particular building, you can sense heat coming from it, and behind that wooden stall, you can see a dwarven man with like this big bushy red beard, and like he's wearing like these very big goggles, and he's got like this metallic anvil, and he's got like a kind of like a vat of his own of like lava, and he's pounding away at a sword with like this massive hammer that like looks twice the size of his head, and he's like and
Oh yeah.
go ahead and make a quick perception check.
I feel like that die has been giving me too many good rolls.
It's like cursed.
Ooh. And then my perception is +2, if I remember correctly. That was an 18.
Ooh, not bad.
I'm happy
So,
I switched die.
so, kind of like as you're examining this building closely, it does not take long at all for you to realize what this is. Like, I mean,
It's a
not only
blacksmith.
not only did the anvil kind of clue you in, like with the bashing hammer, but like you do look up and you do see a sign above the awning that says, I gotta refer to my notes because I didn't practice beforehand. Melgreen's Master Forge.
Mel with 2 L's, I'm sure.
It's Melgrene.
I got you.
Alright, cool. So, as you're approaching this smith, Holly just kind of pounds her fist on the
Who?
the short-haired woman. I know, I've let her name slip twice.
I didn't hear you first time, but I heard
Yeah.
you just now. I don't remember what you said, though.
Yeah, it's all good. And she goes, she kind of pounds her fist and she goes, Melgreen! And this, like, bushy bearded dwarf, he's pounding away and he turns around and he, like, looks at you and his eyes look, like, way bigger in these goggles. And he goes, oh, some guests! It's been so long since I've had some guests! And he goes ahead and kind of throws the hammer down. It's like, like this really loud metallic clanging. And he runs up, jumps onto the freaking counter, like with his stubby little legs, and like throws he's got some thick arms, like throws them around Holly's neck, and like gives her this.
Probably even 3.
He goes and throws her arms around her neck and like this tight hug, and let's go. And she's and then he kind of looks at you two, and he goes, "So, who are the guests you've brought?" And the short-haired woman, she turns around and she goes, well, this here is Chisadri. She is a diviner, and Chisadri, she kind of has to strain her neck to look above. She goes, hello, and then the short-haired woman looks at you, and she goes, and this is who our master told me to bring. And this dwarf, he kind of looks at you, stroking his like massive beard, but like his hands are like comically huge. Like he can grab the whole beard in one go, and he's like, I see. And he kind of whispers, and he's like, Cassandra Dahlia, correct?
That is my name. Yes, sir.
And he goes, I see. So you are the former princess of Ishtorai.
Former. Yeah.
And then Chisadri goes, what? I didn't hear anything about a princess? Like, really loud. And freaking Holly goes ahead and puts her hand above her mouth and goes, well, friends, I'd like you to go ahead and meet my friend Melgreen. Melgreen, he's a masterful blacksmith, and he just kind of flexes and he goes, that's right, you know I'm fucking fantastic. And
Wait. When he does that, I'm gonna look at his muscles and be like, yeah, man. You flex. Flex on.
Go ahead and make a deception check. I'm totally. He goes, are you being condescending?
Nah, man. For real. Like, and then like I like flex back, but like I'm a girl, and like my chainmail kind of like clings, like holds my arms down, and I'm like, yeah, man, like flex.
And then he goes, oh, I like this one, and he goes ahead and he hops off the table and he kind of gestures for the three of you to follow, and he's like, come, we must sit down, have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you may want. I have everything. Come on, come sit down. And the short-haired woman, like Chisadri, follows without question. Like she likes her short people because she's one herself, and she goes ahead and follows in. And the short-haired woman looks towards you and she's like, well, you coming?
Yeah.
All right. So you go ahead and follow into this door. So first off, it's not so much a door so much as it is an opening in the slabs of steel that were like there are various rivets. Like you can tell that this wall is it's made of steel scrap, like just giant, very thick sheets of steel and iron,
Interesting.
and like kind of hammered in together. And this isn't really a door; it's just a straight up opening in between the walls. But when you go and walk in, the interior is completely different from the outside. Like it's got this hardwood floor, and the walls are like made of kind of unpolished mahogany. Like if you were to run your fingers along it, you'd probably get a splinter. Like it's very coarse
Ugh.
wood. Like you can tell Mel Green, even though he probably lives here, given that you see a bed in the corner, like he doesn't really stay inside much. Like it is pretty much completely bare, other than a bed, a table, and like a few chairs, and then to your right, you do see kind of like a kitchen area where the floor transitions from hardwood to kind of tiled false marble in a way. And Mel Green, he walks into the kitchen. He's like, "Sit. What would you like?"
I'll just take a milk. You have milk? Do you have milk?
Yes, for 45 gold. And then he just kind of laughs. And he's like, "No, it's okay." And then the short-haired woman goes, "I'll just have an ale." And then Chisandri goes, "Do you have anything with mosquito blood in it?" And he kind of stares at her, and like Mel Green looks at the short-haired woman. He goes, "Where in the world did you pick up this one?" And she goes, and then the short-haired woman goes, "It's a long story. There was a massive accident, explosions, all the crazy crap you'd see in like those fiction novels." And he goes, "Oh, okay, I understand." And so he goes in and he goes and pours you a cup of milk and sets it on the table, and he's going ahead and fixing um, uh, just a drink of ale for the short-haired woman, and he just gets a glass of water for Chisadri, but he does go ahead and take some food coloring, like red food coloring, and boop, 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 and kind of stirs it in a little bit, but like just barely, so that way like it would blend in with the water, but there are like still kind of clumps of the red. And he goes ahead and hands it to her, and Chisadri goes, "Yes, yes," and she goes and downs it, and like not even knowing the difference.
Oh my gosh.
And then and then Mel Green goes ahead and he takes like this gigantic metal stein and pours himself like what looks to be root beer. Like it actually has like a root beer label on the bottle, and he pours it in, and he goes ahead and takes a massive swig, sets it down, and he goes, "So I heard the situation in Ishtora has gotten quite hairy. Is that the case?"
I'd rather not.
"You can talk freely. No one is going to hear us." And he goes ahead and he leans in and he goes, "Everyone in this village, we're all with you. We're all with her." And he gestures towards the short-haired woman, and she goes, "Oh no." And then she's kind of bashful, and he goes, "You don't have to talk about it. I did hear about it, but the version being fed to the public is false. Everyone is saying you killed the king. But judging by the fact that you are here, we assume that this is not the case. Is that right?"
I mean, I like lift my arm up and like let like my chainmail like kind of root my arm, and like I'm like barely flexing. Like I was kind of flexing like before earlier, and then like I'm like barely doing anything. I'm like, do I look like I could kill a man?
And then Chisadri, like, she's in the middle of a drink and she takes it down, like, freaking the red food coloring kind of staining her teeth. And she goes, "You could kill a bird, that's for sure." And then she goes ahead and takes another drink.
Men and birds are very different.
And then Mel Green is kind of nods and he's like, "Ah, yes. Birds are much nicer than men." That's for sure. And
Not those ones that we fought.
and then the short woman kind of explains the Bloodhawks, and then Cassandra goes ahead and takes another drink down. And she's like, "Arcane birds," and then she goes ahead and takes another drink. And Melgreen's like, he kind of looks at Cassandra with like a furrowed brow, and he looks towards the short woman, and he's like, "Again, how?" And she just goes, "She was on the train. We couldn't let her die." And then Chisadri again drops the cup again, and she's already drank like most of it. And she goes, "I have special powers," and she goes ahead and downs the rest of the drink, and looks at Melgreen like with her wide eyes. She's like, "I hear voices in my head,"
and I'm just like,
and then. Yeah, and then she like when you do that, Chisadri points and she goes, "She does too."
Hey, now. We all got a few voices. Alright.
And Melgreen goes, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but if she has special powers, and if you are the princess, then we've got quite a bit of work to do." And then he goes ahead and takes another drink, and he goes, "Well, welcome to the Haladrian Mountains. As long as you are here, you can make this place home. Everyone here essentially knows who you are, but we are keeping it and our task under wraps because we know some men of Ishtorai have been keeping a close eye on our operations. And based on the story that I've heard on your way here," and he kind of gestures towards the short-haired woman, and she goes, "Oh yeah, I've been sending magic messages back and forth throughout our walk." And he goes, "It sounds like these men of Ishtorai have found you as well. Are these the people who... Did the men in that were exploding this train for God knows what reason, did they don the cloth of Liedon?"
From what I remember and what I know, yeah. It looked pretty dang familiar. I haven't really ever seen other kingdoms like colors. I don't know. Freaking, what do they wear here? Like,
are you like asking that in
no,
character
no.
or
It's like rhetorically. I'm actually like, I'm saying that. I'm like, what do they wear here? Like, it's like a joke.
Oh, okay. And then Melgreen just kind of chuckles and he's like, "Ah, yes, I understand. Regardless, we will make sure you are safe and taken care of." And then he finishes his drink, sets it down, and he goes, "Well, in the meantime, shall I interest you in any of my wares?" And then the short woman goes, "No, no, don't advertise when we're on the run." He goes, "What? Royalty, rich, gold." And Chisadri's like, "I have gold." And she goes ahead and pulls out a freaking rabbit ear. And she's like, "No, no, wait, that's wrong." And then she's like, she's checking her pockets. And she's like, "Oh, I don't have gold." And then Melgreen's like, "Then you're not allowed to stay here. You're sleep outside." And she goes, "Yes, I can sleep with the dogs in the yards." And she goes and gets off her seat and just walks outside.
I look over. I look like over at the short haired woman, and I'm like, "You've been carrying her this whole time. Do you really think it's okay to just let her walk off like that?"
And then she looks at her and she goes, "Yes, no, I don't care." It's like she's got powers, and I saved her, so I'm obligated to keep her safe, but I'm not like keeping her on a leash.
Well, if our spellcaster or whatever she is just comes up missing, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Fair enough. In any case, she goes ahead and stands up, and you notice she hasn't really taken any sips of her ale, and she just kind of looks at Melgreen, and she goes, "I have some business to take care of. Would you go ahead and Actually, no. She points at you and she goes, "Go ahead and meet me in the center of the village once you're ready, and I'll go ahead and show you where you will be sleeping for the evening. We don't really have any inns or anything, but we do have specific quarters designed for just general sleeping. So just let me know." And she goes ahead and turns around and heads out. And Milgreen looks at her ale. He grabs it and just downs it all in one gulp, and he just kind of wipes his bushy beard, like bushy mustache, and he looks at you and he goes, "Well, any questions? Any interest in my wares or anything?"
Hmm. I gotta think. So, I'm royalty or whatever, but you're not trying to run any scams or anything, are you?
"Oh, no, 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 no. I just we live in a small village. We barely get business. Everyone who's already lived here has already bought crap from me. So I wanted to sell some shit, and I figured, you know, why not promote my business to someone who hasn't lived here and already bought, you know, anything out of my store."
I don't know where my gold is or my money.
It should be under. Let's see. If you go into the equipment tab, it'll be there.
I have nothing. I don't think I ever set it up.
Oh, jeez. All right. So.
Whatever.
All right. Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay. For here, I'm gonna notate it down, and then we can figure this out after. That way we don't.
All
I'm
right.
gonna I don't wanna see what you have, cause I don't want to. I don't want to be holding on it too much right now. But I go. So I have I never described what I have on.
Well, I mean, that's totally fine. Like, it's not necessarily something you need to describe. That's just something that you need to know yourself. So
Yeah. So
you're good.
I kind of have a. It's not necessarily. It's just it's like a makeshift cloak. If anything, it could pass for a blanket. And how younger kids they take a blanket and they tie it around. They're like, oh, I'm a superhero.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's like.
Yes.
And I kind of move it out of the way and I take it kind of looks like I'm taking it out of a pocket, but in reality it's just like a tiny it's like a mini purse that I kind of cherish because of my dad and stuff
story
like
reasons.
that. So I take out one singular piece of gold and just put it on the counter.
Melgreen just looks at it and he goes, "Well, I can't take this if you're not buying anything."
Don't worry about it. At this point, money's kind of money at this point.
I don't know. I understand. And he goes ahead and takes it and just kind of pockets it, and then he goes ahead and he kind of points to your glass and he's like, "Are you done?"
Yeah, I didn't drink much of it. Probably just half.
Oh yeah. Which I mean is understandable given everything going on. So he goes in and he kind of takes the glasses and he like I said, his hands are massive, so he can just kind of grab them all without even folding them to his chest. And he goes out into the kitchen and starts washing them. And he goes, "Well, in that case, feel free to go into the village. Go ahead and just see what you can see. Meet up with the person you've been traveling with, and I guess we'll discuss the matter once we have more information in time."
All right. It was nice to meet you, Mel.
Nice. Oh, I like that. Nice to meet you too, Cassandra. See name, whatever.
I kind of I stand up, and then before I walk away or walk out of the doorway, I look back and I kind of just It's like, flex, man, flex.
And then he flexes back with like a smile.
And I'm like, yeah. Like, stay flexing, man. And then just like walk out.
Alright. So you're back into the village, and it's still around mid-morning. It's probably reaching about 9:30 in the morning right now. So you still have pretty much the rest of the day ahead of you, and as far as you can tell, unless you decide otherwise, you will be staying in this village, like just to kind of determine what's going on. And go ahead and actually make an insight check for me, real quick. I guess it's kind of after the fact, but just go ahead and make an insight check real quick.
I gotta check. It's been a bit for insight. I'm gonna go back to Old Faithful. Oh, shit. Me and these damn die.
Great start.
Anyway. Ah, fuck. And of course, as soon as I re-roll it.
What is it?
Good thing I have proficiency. Yay. 6 it's a 9.
I mean, that's what you needed because the DC was a 6 anyway. So it's from what you can ascertain, everything they've spoken is true. Everyone in this village, which is just called the Haladrian Mountain, because it doesn't qualify as a village. They call it a village because it's like a community of people who've come together. And like it's in this range called the Haladrian Mountains, which is the border between Ishtorai and Olivia. And you can tell that what he said was true. Like the other townspeople, there aren't many of them, but like you can see like a couple of humans passing by. Like it's a very diverse town. Like there's even like a dragonborn child just kind of sitting there, and like he's got like blue scales, and like he's kind of he doesn't really look at you, but he's just kind of standing there looking around confused. But like everyone else who passes you just kind of nods, and like some even kind of bow knowing who you are, like, and then just kind of walk away.
To the people who bow, I'm just like
and then they're like, oh yeah, okay, and they understand. They just kind of keep walking. And now you're in this village, the Haladrian Mountain. The day is yours. What would you like to do?
Can I try to ascertain like what some of the other buildings are? I mean, I know some of them are houses, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, there was Mel's place.
So would you like to just see from where you're standing, or would you like to go and actually investigate?
I mean, it's not that big of a
yeah, like I said, there are only like 8 buildings. It's really not a big place.
I just want to walk around a little bit.
Alright, so go ahead and make an investigation check in that case, since you are just kind of looking with intent to see what the other buildings are.
Let's roll decently, please. I'm gonna... You know what? Fuck the... I'm acid stain on the table. It's a fucking 3. These die are horrible.
My goodness. So was that a 3 total?
I don't have anything to add to my investigation.
Oh yeah. So I don't have your character sheet pulled up, so I didn't see it for reference. But
oh no, I got it right here. So
okay, cool. So yeah, you're looking around, and as far as you can see, other than Melgreen's Master Forge, everything else kind of looks the same. It's all just red brick buildings with the V-shaped steel roofs, and you're kind of looking at one, and you do notice, or you actually hear a voice. It's like a young boy's voice, and you don't know where it's coming from, but he's like directing attention at the building you're looking at, and he goes, "These are one of the many sleeping quarters in the village." And you look down. Go ahead and make a perception check with advantage.
Okay, good. Advantage. So I rolled... You know what? I suck at keeping it on the table. That's anyway.
It's a small surface, so you're fine.
Good, I'm gonna... Now I have more space. I have so many freaking die. Okay, so that's one. The first one was cocked and it was on the floor. Ooh, that's a 14 plus. You said perception, correct?
Yeah.
It's 16.
All right, so you immediately kind of pick up on the where the voice you hear is, and you look behind you, and you see that blue-scaled dragonborn boy kind of standing behind you, and he's looking at the building. He's got like these bright, almost sapphire-like eyes, and he kind of looks at you and looks at the building, and he goes, "Yeah, most of the buildings kind of lining that side of town are where we all sleep."
I'm like, cool. Hey, kid.
And he goes, "Hey, you're Princess Cassandra, right?"
Yeah.
And he nods and he goes, "It's nice to see a familiar face for once. My name is Shoal, and well," and he's trying to speak, but like the words just kind of barely get out. And he goes, I was there after the Ishtorai aftermath. I saw what happened, and my parents, I think they were part of your mother's council, and they they saw what happened. They witnessed firsthand. They know you didn't kill the king, but they were powerless against her, and that's why your mother ended up calling the guards. And like he kind of lowers his head and he goes, "I don't know. After that, like my parents told me what happened, and there was pandemonium in the city. I don't know what happened, but like these mages came out of the woodworks. I wasn't aware that the council had mages and liaison, but..."
I kind of like put my hand out, like to kind of silence him, and I'm like, there's apparently a lot that a lot of us didn't know. And trust me, kid, I feel like it could have been a lot worse than it was, to be honest.
And Shoal's face, he nods and he's like, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I ran at the first sign of danger. I've never really been much of a fighter. I don't know. I saw my parents, I don't know. And he just stops talking and he goes, "Well, it's nice to meet you, and I hope you're safe. The word's been kind of spreading around the village that you saw a couple of the mages on your way here, didn't
you?" Yeah, unfortunately, we ran into. It's. Can I do, before I say what I'm gonna say, can I do like an insight check to see just how old this kid is?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Because, I mean, he's been through a lot already,
Mm-hmm.
and, don't want to scar him for life.
Mm-hmm.
Please let something be a good roll right now. Yes. Do I have... Ooh, I'm proficient in insight. That's a 22.
Ooh, perfect. So, like, just kind of glancing at him and, like, looking at his demeanor, from Ishtorai, kind of like Orlivia, it's a very diverse province, and you've been around your fair share of Dragonborn. And so, like, you can easily ascertain, like, their ages or, like, kind of their backgrounds, and you can tell this kid he is 8 years old. He is quite young.
I kind of like... Okay. Now I know what I'm going to do. I kind of like... Are we like... I know we're close, but... How...
So it's like you're kind of standing with your back turned towards the building, and he's kind of like right here, about like no more than a yard away from you.
Wait, is my back to him?
Oh no, your back is to the building, but like he was looking at the building behind you, so you're turned towards him now.
Okay. I'm gonna take like a few steps, like just to like kind of close the space in between us, just like soft, like on the shoulder, like look. A lot of things have happened over a pretty short amount of time. Things happen, but it's not good to. We gotta keep moving forward. So I kind of like put my fist out. It's like we gotta stay strong, and then like wait for him to like fist bump.
And he kind of looks at you, and his eyes start glazing, and he like starts tearing up, and he's like, I just want my mom and dad back. And then like he kind of takes in a deep breath, and he's like, and then he just kind of shakes his head, and he's like, but yeah, I know. And he goes ahead and bumps your fist as well, and he's like, yeah, you just gotta keep moving forward, and I'm sure I'll see them again someday. And then he kind of looks at you, and he's like, so what are you going to do while you're here in town?
Well, hopefully, I'm like, I step away a bit to like give just the initial space back.
Yeah.
And I kind of like turn away, like, and look towards the building that he said was the sleep quarters, and I'm like, at this point, kid, your guess is as good as mine. And I kind of like, I walk in the direction of the sleep quarters and just walk away.
Alright, that makes sense. So, with that, you part ways from him, and you hear a familiar voice, and you immediately can tell it's the voice of the short-haired woman. She's like, well, looks like you found it on your own. And you turn around, and you see her kind of running up, and she just kind of pats Shul's head as she passed by him. And he's walking towards one of the houses, and you can see that the house he's walking towards is one where there's like a golden retriever kind of out playing. It's like golden retriever puppy, and Chisadri is kind of playing with it, and Shul walks up, and you can't really hear them, but like they have a brief conversation, and Chisadri kind of smiles at him and kind of lets him sit down and play with the dog, and he's just kind of petting it, and then the short-haired woman looks at you and goes, well, we actually have quite a few living quarters. This is just one of, like she kind of gestures towards the 4 remaining buildings on this side. And she goes, all 4 of these buildings are sleeping quarters. There aren't really necessarily any assigned spots because she goes ahead and opens up the door. Like, the door is very strong, reinforced, like, redwood. And she opens it and it kind of creaks open a little bit. And inside, there are no walls. It's actually just a hard, or like there are like interior walls, but like no other walls or rooms. It's just a single room with like a hardwood floor, and there are like cots kind of laid down. Some people are still sleeping, and like you can kind of see like uh, like this human woman crying, and like there's a goblin on top of the bed, kind of patting her shoulder and like kind of reassuring her, and the short-haired woman goes, essentially, you can choose wherever you want to sleep, and considering that everyone here knows who you are, everyone's fine with letting you sleep where you are. And like as she's speaking, you can see a couple heads kind of perk up, and they see you, and their eyes kind of widen, and the short-haired woman just kind of like holds her hand out and gestures for them to keep it down, and they all kind of nod, and but like their eyes are still wide in bewilderment. Like even the crying human woman looks up, and she like can't help but smile seeing you, and like you can tell just your presence alone gives these people hope. Like the short woman kind of closes the door, and she looks, and she kind of puts her hand on your shoulder and kind of brings you away from the sleeping quarters, and she goes, I can see you talked to Shoal. You can tell a lot of the people here are actually refugees from the result of what happened in Liaodon. And a lot of them lost a lot of people. Poor Shoal lost his parents. I think he thinks they're still alive, but I don't know. I don't think he'll be able to find them after what happened. But just, I guess these are people who need you now, and all the more reason why they're willing to protect you, because they know the truth. They believe Shoal's testimony, because did he tell you his parents were part of the Queen's Council?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, so they witnessed firsthand when it happened. So, but then she kind of clears her throat and she goes, "But that's not what we're here for. What do you think of the village? It's like this was built almost entirely by our friend Melgreen."
I like look around at the buildings, and I'm like, he did a pretty dang good job for only being yay tall.
And she just kind of laughs and she goes, "Yeah, that's dwarven fortitude for you. They can do just about anything." And then she looks over at the yard where Chisadri is playing, and she kind of whistles, and she's like, "Hey, come over here!" And Chisadri, she's playing with the dog, and and then Shoal notices, and he kind of goes like, "Hey, you should probably." And then Chisadri goes, "Oh yeah." And then she goes ahead and kind of lets Shoal play with the dog, and she kind of like she kind of throws it, and Shoal like catches it in the air, and he's kind of like petting it as she goes ahead and walks over towards you, and
like that poor dog.
I mean, you look at it and it seems unharmed. Like it's just happily licking Shoal's face and like playing with him, and then Chisadri walks up and she goes, "So, what's next?" And then the short-haired woman goes, "Well, you see, that's the question, isn't it? Anyway, I just wanted to bring you here because I am going to have a meeting with Melgreen and one of our others here later this evening, and I wanted to make sure you two would be up to meeting with us." And Chisadri goes, "Oh, yes, I would be more than glad. I want to bear witness to history." And and then the short-haired woman goes, "Well, I know you're on board," and she looks up at you and she goes, "And you? I mean, you can rest during the day if you need to. I know this all must be very overwhelming. It's a lot happening really fast."
I kind of like look around again, just to look at the surrounding area and like the people, and it kind of like brings a thought of like what home used to be. And then I look back at this woman, like slightly like glance over at Chihandri, like somebody's keen to just jump into things apparently. And I'm like, I mean, at this point, what could go wrong? I'm like, yeah, I'm all for.
All right, sounds good. And she goes ahead and clasps her hands together and she goes, "Well, we will be holding the meeting actually in the town center. We will be hosting a bonfire. Our members of the council will be here, as well as one of our elites, so feel free to do whatever you want for the rest of the day, but once the sun sets and the moon is high, we will go and have the meeting. So, I will see you two then." And she goes ahead and walks off, and you can see she's heading back towards Melgreen's Master Forge, and she's probably gonna go get the drink she missed out on, and probably scold Melgreen for drinking it for her. But and Chisadri looks at you.
Can't waste that ale.
All right. And she looks up at you and she goes, "Hey, are you doing okay?"
I look down at her. I'm like, just thinking about some things, but I'm all right.
And she kind of nods and she goes, "Yeah, I can tell. I saw a little bit. There's something strange about you." And then she kind of puts 3 fingers to her temple, closes her eyes, and holds her left hand out, and like her hand is kind of slowly rotating a little bit, and she goes, "I see, I see. Thank you." And like her eyes are closed the whole time, and then she opens them, and her mouth is open, and she kind of lowers her hand, and she goes,
That whole time, I'm just like looking at her like, I knew this lady was weird, but okay.
and then she kind of looks at you, and like for the first time since you've met her, her face is kind of dead serious. Like her wide eyes kind of narrow a little bit, and her mouth kind of closes tightly, and she leans up to you, and like she stands on her like toes because she's so short, and she goes, "I don't think we're okay in this village. I'd recommend laying low until the meeting." And then with that, she kind of lowers herself and she goes, "Well, I'm gonna go play with the dog." And then she goes ahead and runs off to the yard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Uh, do you want to roll insight and see if like she's spouting nonsense or if she's serious or?
Yeah. My insight's pretty dang high as long as I don't freaking roll like crap. So, I don't know which one of these is a good die anymore. It's like all of them are crap at one point. I'm gonna do this one. You don't want to know what I
I do. I'm the DM. It's my job.
Good thing I'm proficient in it. Yay. So, just want to say, my plus is 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm proficient in it. 7. So guess what? You know what I rolled.
Actually, you know what?
I'm awful.
Just this once, I'll allow you to roll with advantage. So, because you got like you got a feeling when she Sadri spoke, like it's just yeah.
Hell yeah. Like that's any better. Yeah, 14.
All right. I mean,
that's better.
She seemed sincere, like just based on her expression and how her tone changed, like you get the feeling that she probably sensed something you might not be feeling right now, something dangerous, kind of waiting, and then now she's just playing with the dog. The other villagers are kind of going about their regular work. Some of them are stopping by the Master Forge and throughout the day just kind of purchasing weapons. So before the meeting, is there anything else you want to do, or do you just want to like rest until then?
I'm not like hurt or anything. I mean, the only thing that's missing is a stone. That's not really gonna do me much. I have my books. I want to I don't want to go into the sleeping quarters because I don't want to be bothered by people right now.
Yeah.
So like maybe just like on the side, I'm gonna like walk around like to the side of the building and just like crisscross applesauce like against the building and just like take out my book about half elves and just like read through more of it.
All right. So you go ahead and spend your time reading. You spend a decent amount of hours reading, and it's pretty uninterrupted. You don't like hear anyone, and you're on the side of the building. You said not the back.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're still within like the village parameters then, because like the back is facing just entire forest, but like you're still facing one of the other buildings, and so you're just sitting there reading and spending time just going through the book, and Go ahead and make a wisdom saving throw.
Come on, man. Just give me freaking.
I mean, you are proficient, so you can add your proficiency bonus.
I know, but like, we know what my weakness is, and apparently it's rolling.
Mm.
Oh, fuck. Stay on the table, please.
What'd you roll?
Well, I rolled a fucking 19.
Oh shit. So.
You want me to add? I don't think I need to
You don't
add.
need to. That's perfectly fine. So, as you're reading, like,
holy shit.
you do kind of think about the stuff that happened at home, but like, you kind of every time your mind drifts towards it, you mentally think, no, it's like there's no need to focus on that now. And like, you kind of remember the advice you gave to Shoal and how, you can't hold on to the past so much, and you got to keep moving forward. So you just every time those thoughts creep in your mind, you go ahead and just zero in on reading, and you are completely unbothered by your own thoughts or anything else. So you spend basically the rest of the day reading, so that's like a good 10 hours of just kind of reading. And so like you occasionally get up and like kind of pace back and forth and just kind of get a little movement in.
Like in my hand.
Yeah, and like no one really is gonna bother you. Like you're the freaking princess to them, so they're not gonna bother you when you're reading. So you finish, and finally, once it starts getting too dark to read, you go. Well, I mean, you have dark vision, so it doesn't matter. So, but once you start telling that it's getting nighttime, like the sun has set, you hear crickets chirping out in the forest. You kind of hear like a bird's cooing, like like that sound,
Yes.
and you start to hear.
Wait here for effect. I'm gonna like as soon as I start like hearing crickets, I'm gonna like close my book. Like I'm gonna like look around and like.
Perfect. All right, we got some sound effects here. This is a high budget D&D show, everybody. So you go ahead and close your book, and you can kind of hear some fire crackling as well as some chattering voices. Would you like to go and head back into the village?
Yeah.
All right. So you walk up, and you can see the orange glow of the fire before you even kind of creep around the building. But you can see, thankfully, it's just a pretty large bonfire. Like it's probably taller than most of the people standing around it. Which, I mean, to be fair, most of them are humans and goblins, and like one of them is little 8-year-old Shoal, and he's pretty short. So like you go ahead and walk up to this group, and among the group is the short-haired woman. Chisadri is kind of picking at her teeth with her her fingernail, and
did she eat the dog?
make a perception check. And I'm totally. No, the dog is fine and well, and then you see Mel Green as well, and he's kind of stroking his beard with his massive freaking hand, and you can see a few of the other people. One of them is the crying woman you saw in like sitting on one of the cots, and she's kind of like this woman with like blonde hair that kind of goes down about shoulder length, and she's got like brown eyes, a kind of pale skin. Like she looks like she's been sick for a little while. Like she's kind of got like bags under her eyes, and she's kind of dressed in this very casual, loose beige and yellow dress, and but like she's got a dagger kind of attached at her hip and like a sword sheath across her back. And you actually walking towards this group, you notice that the majority of them are armed. Even Shoal has a knife on his hip or attached to his hip. And
this kid got a freaking weapon for.
So you walk up to the group, and Mel Green's like, "Oh, the princess joins us. Come join the circle." And do you like a couple people kind of part, and it's one of the goblins and like a human male kind of part, and like look at you and gesture for you to join. Do you join?
I'm gonna like so I have like I still have my book out. It's just like I'm just like kind of holding it.
Yeah.
And I want to just like walk over like holding, not necessarily like it up, but like I'm holding it by, so like the spine of the book is like facing the people or whatever. That way, like they see this. I don't know if. I don't know. I don't want them to know what I've been reading. But I'm walking towards them, and I kind of just like take the book down. That way, no one knows like what I've been reading.
Go ahead and make a sleight of hand check with advantage.
Okay. I don't think I have freaking, because I'm not dexterous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a 12. Can you stay on the table, please? Okay, 12.
All right. Yeah. I mean, as far as you can tell, no one notices, and I mean, even if they did, they probably wouldn't care. Like, these people are all basically here to protect you anyway, so you go ahead and walk in and join the circle.
I still don't want people to know.
Fair enough.
I don't know for certain myself.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So anyway, you go ahead and join the circle, and Melgreen clasps his hands, and he's like, well, all right, now that we are all here, we can allow the meeting to finally begin. And the flames, like, they're pretty intense, but as you approach it, you still feel surprisingly cool. Like, there's no heat really emitting from this fire. It's more to kind of light up everyone's faces. And go ahead and make a perception check real quick.
I'm not on that thing yet. Wait, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 15.
All right.
My good rolls are coming in.
Yeah. So you go ahead and kind of read the room, and you take a look at everyone, and they all surprisingly seem happy. Like, even the blonde-haired woman who was crying earlier, like, her eyes are still kind of bloodshot, but
she got like red cheeks from crying.
Yeah, she does look surprisingly kind of in high spirits, and the short-haired woman kind of looks at everyone and says, well, thank you all for gathering, and I do apologize it's been so long since we've last had a meeting. Michael and Azael haven't been able to show up for a while, so I didn't want to hold it without them, but they've got other business to attend to in Washorik, so I just wanted to leave them be and make sure we can hold the meeting here. And like the goblin beside you, kind of, he's kind of like a short goblin male, and he's got like a bald head, but like kind of strands of like silver hair kind of poking out from the temples of his head. He's got like long pointed ears, and he's got like he doesn't really have any lips on his mouth. Like, it's just it's like a cut out circle, like where his lips would be. Like, you could just see his teeth, and he's like, this the princess, does she know what we are? And the human male who was on your other side, he goes, I don't believe we've had the chance to really introduce ourselves, but that shouldn't be a problem. We're here to protect you anyway. And and then the short-haired woman just kind of glares at the goblin and the man, and then just kind of looks up at you and smiles, and she goes, never mind them. They're always like this. And then Melgreen, he kind of puts his massive hands on his hips, but like when he does, like his fingers go up to his belly button, like.
Yes. I love this man.
He goes, so let us hold this meeting in order. Anyway, with the princess here, we've got a bit of planning to do, it seems. She saw that subjects A and B spotted her when she was getting out of the what do we call it? And then
train.
Shoal goes. Shoal kind of goes the tour, and then Melvin's like, yes, she saw subjects A and B coming after she left the tour. Yes, she and our friends, this person, and he gestures towards the short-haired woman, and she, I forgot her name, it's been a while, she's Audrey. She emerged from the tour having been less than satisfied. Thankfully, not as dissatisfied as the rest of the audience. And he kind of chuckles at his own morbid joke, and and he goes, "But with subjects A and B on their trail, we have no idea how far they've gone or if they've tracked us or not. But we are here to keep things under wraps. So, Princess, or I probably shouldn't call you that. Cassie, we'll just go with Cassie. Um, what exactly compelled you to come here? And I want you to go and make an insight check on our boy here."
On our boy. Mill. Stay on the fucking table. Okay. That's that. I'm trying to do some math. My brain's starting to die.
Oh, jeez, yeah. We have been going for a while.
Okay, 17.
Alright, so
I'm dang freaking proficient in insight.
you
Hell
are.
yeah.
So you can tell off the bat that he knows you were brought here by the voice in your head. Like, it's actually something Chisadri talked to him earlier when you weren't aware. And, like, you can kind of get that vibe because you look at Chisadri and her eyes are like, oh, or like, and she just kind of looks around and like her eyes are all wide. And you can tell they know something the rest of the people don't, and he's wanting you to elaborate on that so the rest of the people here know.
Let's see. Let's see. It's obvious only him and
He and Chisadri know, and the short-haired woman would know as well because they're kind of like they're like the head honchos of this group right now, which makes no sense considering, from what you know, the short-haired woman just met Chisadri on the train, so, and Melgreen just met her as well, so.
Yeah, from what I know. I want to go. Never mind. I don't have to do that. I'm kind of just like I'm just like chilling. So like I'm gonna put my hands out like towards the fire and see if I can get any warmth. Since I'm not feeling anything.
All right.
I like to check and like, am I alive? Cause like I'm like, if I'm near a fire, like I would feel warmth. That's how fire works. So like I'm putting my hands out. It's kind of like to make sure I'm still alive, but it's like as a joke kind of thing.
So, yeah, you don't really feel any warmth. You feel like a bit of a breeze actually coming from the fire, but like no warmth from it.
Okay. And then like I'm like gonna keep one hand just to like make like check.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna like put the other hand down and I'm gonna go, let's just say I got a little birdie.
And then Chisadri's like, have you killed it yet?
No. I just have a little birdie right now.
And then you see Shoal kind of like looking at you, and then he kind of turns because he's next to Melgreen, and he looks at Melgreen, and like they're like Melgreen is probably half an inch taller, so like he doesn't have to look up very high, and he's like, I don't see a bird. What is she talking about? and then the rest of the villagers kind of look amongst each other, and like you can see they got cocked eyebrows, and the goblin's like, I knew it! We shouldn't have trusted the princess, her mother's evil spawn of Satan, I tell you! And then the short-haired woman's like, calm down, Basin Water, you don't have to worry so much. And then this goblin, apparently named Basin Water, from what she said, is good, and kind of grumbles and looks up at you, and he's like, I don't like you.
And I just like I take, so like I got the one hand out, and then like I take my other hand, and then like I, I take I take my hand, go over his head, and then like see how tall he is compared to me, and then like I just look down and I'm like, you're not tall enough for me to like anyway. So I don't like you either.
Make an intimidation check with disadvantage because he's quite frustrated right now after you did that.
It's just a joke. Oh well, that's probably the one I'm gonna get. I'm like, oh shit. You know what? Fuck it. I have another die. No, well, it's 7 then.
And then he just glares at you and he's like, "Fuck you!" And then freaking the short-haired woman's like, basin water. And then he goes, "Fine." And then he just kind of mumbles to himself and stares back into the water. And then the short-haired woman kind of clears her throat and she goes, "Well, anyway, I was hoping we'd have some time to relax tonight, but you mentioned that little birdie. I have a feeling that's going to be a bit of a problem, unfortunately." And she kind of gestures towards Chisadri, and Chisadri goes ahead and looks at you, and she's like, "I told you." And at that moment, you hear a whistling in the air. A fireball has struck the ground just outside the village. Like, the force of it is enough to kind of, like, flames go ahead and knock down one of the houses in the distance, and it collapses. And you start hearing people screaming in the distance, and, like, people are starting to run out of the building, and, like, some people are getting caught under the debris. And other members of this council are kind of looking at each other, and Melgreen, rather, he's like, "Go put out the barrier, I told you this would happen." And, like, everyone goes and rushes, and you see all of them, they kind of hold up their hands, and you see, like, this blue light emitting from their hands, and they're all, like, chanting in a language you don't understand, but, like, you're... as, like, this shield begins to cover the entire village, and Shoal is looking up, and he's like, what's happened? And then kind of like this tall adult human male, like, with short brown hair, and he's kind of like he's got one green eye and one blue, and, like, he doesn't really look very, like, he's kind of wobbling, and he kind of grabs Shoal, and he's like, "It's nothing serious, young lad, don't worry." And he sounds a lot older than he is. Like, he does kind of have, like, a 5 o'clock shadow, but, like, from what you can ascertain about humans, he's probably just in his mid-20s. So, and then the short-haired woman looks at you, and she gestures for you to follow her, and she's like, come with me. And she starts heading north of the village, further into the mountains. Do you follow?
This freaking...
And while you're deliberating, you hear another... And then you feel the ground shake. A fireball erupts against this force field, and the human woman with the blonde hair, you saw her, she gets a little weak, and, like, she collapses onto the ground. It collided right where she was standing, and she falls, and the shield where she was fades away and is no longer there. Thankfully, the shield caught the fire, but she's no longer there, and you see...
Where's this Chihadri girl?
Chisadri?
Yeah.
She is actually with this brown-haired man and Shul, and they're kind of exchanging glances, and they're actually following the short-haired woman into the mountains.
Okay, I'm gonna follow too.
All right, and then as you follow, go ahead and while you're heading their way, go ahead and make a quick perception check for me.
It's +2. They're on my mid rolls.
I mean, it's not that bad. As you're passing, you look at Melgreen's Master Forge, and you see Melgreen. He's, like, arming himself with, like, metal plates. He's got, like, chainmail on under. He's got, like, a full-on battle helm, like, that protects his...
oh my gosh, he's like Arthur from that one game. I don't know.
And like he takes his forging hammer and like kind of slings it across his back, and then he goes ahead and pulls out a handgun. It's like it's quite big though. It's like the barrel is about like it's actually the size of his palms. So it's like it's probably got a diameter of about like a foot, and it's
Oh my
it's
god.
3 feet long, and
Just like you can palm a basketball.
oh yeah, and like so he like sets his hammer on his back, and like he kind of hunches over to keep his shoulders holding the wooden handle, and like he spins the barrel and here, and then he kind of holds it, and he like takes his hammer off, and he looks at you, and he's like, "What are you doing? Follow her!" And then he looks up at the sky, and you look where he is, and you see the shadows of those two mages above the sky, and he's like, "Come at me, you fuckers!" And he runs out in battle. And then
Yes.
and then, what would you like to do? Would you like to continue following the group that headed further in the mountains?
Yeah, I want to. Are they like focused enough on everyone else? Like, do I need to?
Oh yeah, like they're
They
just.
saw me last time.
Oh yeah, well I mean it's dark this time though. Like they're more focused on letting the villagers know they're here and they are ready for some carnage. So as far as they know,
They don't know that other people have like tried.
actually go ahead and make a quick insight check.
That's the good thing. So even if I roll absolute shit. Okay, so that's this is like the worst math. That's a 14.
I mean, they could be watching you. They might not. You have no idea. And all the pandemonium of like, you hear the explosions against this shield. And just the people screaming and people trying to lift up the debris of the fallen buildings and trying to rescue anyone who may have survived that impact. It's like you can't tell. You are more focused on booking it and catching up to this group that are heading into the mountains. And make one more perception check while you're running.
Okay. What are all these fucking ones? 5. It's a 7.
All right. I mean, you like all you hear as you're running away is just the pandemonium of everything, the explosions against the force field surrounding the village, and you just hear.
Curse my dad before this.
And the sound just kind of fades into the distance until all you hear are your own footsteps and the sound of crickets around you. And you're running in this forest, and you're running, and you still see the group ahead of you. And they're pretty far ahead. They're about like 15 feet ahead of you, but you're starting to catch up, and you're getting a little tired because you've been running a little ways. And you see them stop at like this old wooden shack, and the short-haired woman kind of looks at it, and she goes, "Well, I guess we have no choice." And then she looks back at you, and like, kind of, like her face kind of washes over with relief as she sees that you actually follow them, and she goes, "This is the only way we can get you to Olivia if we plan on avoiding those bastards." And then you see Shoal, and like he's just kind of shaking, and his eyes are all wide, and he's like, I don't understand what's going on. And then the brown-haired man just kind of pats his head, and he's like, "No, don't worry." And then he looks up at you, and he goes, "You're the princess, right, Cassandra Dahlia?"
Yeah, from what I know and remember.
And then he just kind of nods, and he's like, "Got it." And he pulls his hand out, and he's like, "Name's Aloris. I'm an old friend of, I guess, these people, you could say." And then do you check Cassandra or anything?
Oh, come on. No. I just like nod.
No, yeah.
I'm just like, okay.
And then he just kind of smiles, and he's like, "Probably a good idea." And then you turn around, and like he like oh, I forgot his name already. Aluris and Shoal are looking at the short-haired woman, and she walks up and she puts her hand on this wooden shack, and now that you're closer, you can see it more clearly. It's reinforced by these, kind of like the interior of uh, Guy's shack. Sorry, Melgreen's shack. It's still got like wooden shavings. It's very unpolished, but like it's reinforcing the passage into this shack pretty easily, and you can see inside. It's quite dark, but with your dark vision, you can see inside easily. It's only like 10 feet away anyway, so like anyone would be able to see. It's inside. It's got all sorts of what looks like snow gear. Like there's an ice pick. There's a kind of like a hemp rope, kind of hanging from a metal bolt. There's a shovel, but that's not what really catches your eye. Looking inside, you can see a staircase leading down, and the short-haired woman, she goes ahead and she opens up kind of like this metallic chest inside, reaches out and grabs a torch, goes ahead and she looks at Shul and she's like, "Hey, do you mind?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure." And he breathes like it's a very weak breath of fire, but like he manages to still kind of catch on to like the embers and or like the wood inside the torch, and like it lights up. And she turns towards everyone and she goes, "Well, welcome to the Ladrian mineshaft, I suppose. This is out of desperation more so than anything else. Keep all hands and feet to yourselves, and if I tell you to investigate a place, you will investigate it. That does mean you as well, Princess. We are on a strict time limit, and we must get you out of here as soon as possible. Any questions, objections? I hope not, because I will stab you in the face if you do."
I like start to raise my hand, but then I'm like,
And then Shoal looks up at you and he's like, it's okay if you're honest. Like, you're the princess. She's not going to stab you in the face. And Holly's like, "Don't tempt me." And then Ilaris is like, "I don't get this person." And then he just starts walking down the stairs and like he's kind of stumbling. And he's like, "Into the darkness." And then like he kind of sings his way down. And the short-haired woman just like she glares at him and she's like starts booking it down to the stairs. And right now it's just you and Shoal in this old shack. Is there anything you want to do or say before following down?
I look over at Shoal and I'm like, "Stay in front of me."
And he nods and he's like, "Okay." And then he turns around and kind of heads down the stairs. And now you're just in this shack, and you can hear Ilaris' singing getting louder and like echoing in what sounds to be a chamber. And he's like, "I swear that I would see her again." And then you hear the short woman go, "Shut up!"
I'm gonna follow down after.
All right, so you go ahead and head down into the stairs, and then you're heading down, and the stair, the like every stair step you take, kind of squeals as you take it each step, and you head further and further down. And the further down the staircase you go, the colder it starts getting, the more quiet it gets. You can no longer hear the crickets or the birds in the like of the forest. You can only hear, other than Ilaris is singing and Holly is scoffing, whatever. I've said her name enough, it's Holly. And they like come to a stop, and Loris finally stops singing, and you look ahead and you can see that Holly has her arm on his shoulder, and he's like, "What?" And then she's looking around, and you like her back's towards you, so you can't really see like where she's looking, but she turns around and looks at you, and she goes, "I think we should start moving fast." And she kind of grabs Aloris by the shoulder, and she grabs Shul's hand and starts running. Do you run after her?
Where's she hungry?
What? Oh shoot! I totally forgot to mention she's with them. She's with them all. Don't worry. I totally forgot to mention that she was with this group.
Okay. Cause I feel like she would be singing with the dude.
Yeah, she's kind of gone on ahead. She's like more fascinated by the cave formations than anything, because looking around, you actually notice that the walls are kind of sparkly. Like it isn't just mountain. Like this is some sort of ore, and like you could.
It's like I just take my base and just like go at it. I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh, D&D Minecraft.
Or Animal Crossing.
Roll strength check to see if you get this block.
But you said they're like she's starting to.
Oh yeah, they're running, and then like as she Sadra is kind of far ahead, and as she catches up, she's like, "Oh, we're running, okay," and then she starts kind of like running all jovially, and then they're kind of getting far ahead of you. Do you run after them?
Yeah, I mean, what about the kid?
The woman grabbed him by the hand, and he's running along with her.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely.
All right. You go ahead and book it, and as you do, go ahead and make a perception check with advantage for me.
Let's not
roll absolute crap with both of these. That one's not that great. Ooh, meh. The other one was a 9, but just want to say, just rolled another 1. That's 15.
All right.
Well, no, wait. I was looking at the wrong thing. 11.
I mean, okay, it isn't really a high DC to beat. This is very noticeable what just happened. So, as you're running, you hear, and behind you, you see this bright flash of red and orange light, and then it disappears. And as you're running, you can hear footsteps approaching behind you, and they're really fast too. Do you continue running after the rest of the group?
Holy crap. I want to like. Shit. If they can cast fucking fire. I don't know how close they are. Yeah. Yeah, at this point, I just want to keep going.
All right. So as you're running, you hear the footsteps starting to catch up, and you notice they're really fast. And then you hear, like, way behind you in the distance, wait for me! And you...
Mel!
You hear the clanking of armor, and you see the little dwarf running with his hammer on his back, and he's breathing heavily, and he's like, his gun is at his side, and he looks up at you, and he's like, gosh, where the fuck's it? Evil! And then he runs ahead of you, and he's trying to catch up with the rest of the group.
I don't know. Well, I'm happy I didn't try to just, like, shoot anything.
I want you to make an acrobatics check.
Freaking 10.
All right, so as he's running, you start to hear some rumbling behind you, like, and you hear the rock formations behind you beginning to crumble and fall and blocking the way back outside. And as this is happening, thankfully, you managed to run as you're watching this happen. So, like, the rubble that would have fallen on you is, no longer going to fall on you, of course. So you go ahead and run and catch up with the rest of the group. And after this cave-in, you catch up pretty quickly, and everyone's kind of turned around. And Chisadri is still kind of off in her own world, like, but the short-haired woman, Shul, and Ilaris are looking at this cave-in, and Ilaris just kind of goes, well, it was a nice run, but I think we're about right fucked. And the short-haired woman goes, still, it's our only way. And she looks at you, and she goes, we're about to head into some very dangerous territory. Are you prepared?
You know what, I'm not even gonna, do anything flashy. Just, I'm just gonna nod.
Alright, and then Melgreen's like, it's not like she has a fucking choice. It's like, there's only one way forward, and it's this way. And Shul's like, yeah, but Mel, did you see those men? And Milgren, he kind of scratches the back of his head, but like it's like his giant freaking hand. It's like his pinky is on his forehead and his thumb is like at the bottom of his neck, and he's like, yes, but you don't have to worry about that, my lad. And he looks at you and he's like, let's just continue moving forward before anything else falls on us. And with that, you continue moving forward, and looking ahead into this mine shaft, you can see ahead of you about 50 feet of basically just a long stretch ahead of you, and it's at a slight slope moving down further underground, but like it's so slight that it feels like you're walking just straight ahead, but like you can feel the elevation in your head and like some changes in your ears, and like you could tell you're going further down, like pressure building. And Illyris kind of slows down, and he's walking, and like now that you're getting a closer look at him, he's got like this long brown kind of wool coat, and he reeks of alcohol, and he kind of looks at you, and his hand is kind of like he has his hand suspended and like behind his coat, like almost as if he's like wearing a cast, and he looks at you and he's like, hey, I know we're in some bad shit, but I got some cool stuff. I'll buy something.
We're just like walking.
Yeah. Just walking in the darkness, and he just comes up and he's trying to sell you shit.
He's just like strolling back behind. Because I do technically still want to stay like towards the back of everybody.
Yeah.
He just like stops. It's like, want some drugs? I'm gonna glance over and go and go, what you hiding?
Make a persuasion check.
I'm proficient in that. 13.
All right, that's not bad. Loris, like, surprisingly, he actually kind of smiles, and it's not pleasant because, like, a waft of just alcohol breath wafts out as he smiles, and he's like, oh, you want to see? All right. And he goes in and takes his hand out, and, like, you can see the hand that he pulled out from his jacket. It actually is bandaged with gauze, like, there's a bit of blood stain on it. But he reaches into his pocket, and he's like, all right, let's see. Well, there's it's a fairy dust from. It actually came from the springs in the region of Yorjun, and you're looking at it in its pocket lint, and he's like, I swear, I stole this from the Emperor himself. And then he's like, oh wait, but that's not it. And then he goes ahead and he pulls something out of his other pocket, and he's like, this is a flute of the fairies of Yorjun, and it's a half-eaten like wrist rope. And he blows into it, and he's like, I guess you got it. It's untuned or something. And he's like, and he starts playing it like, and then he's like, and he looks around, and he's like, just wait, I bet the fairies will come out soon. And then he's like, but if that didn't sell you, and he goes ahead and he pulls a leather-bound book out of his jacket, and he kind of turns it over, spine facing his palm. He unties it, and he opens it up and closes it and ties it back up, and he's like, this is my ex-wife's diary. You can have it all for the measly little price of 5 gold.
Oh my gosh, this is my ex-wife's day. Oh my
Actually, I want you to go ahead and make a perception check for me.
Oh my
Yeah, that just happened.
Oh my god. Oh, he said perception.
Yeah, perception.
Okay, let me. Oh my gosh. I'm rolling like shit again. Oh my gosh, this man. 9. Oh fuck it.
Alright. Yeah, I mean,
I'm dying.
it sure is a diary. Like, that's a.
That.
It's. You do notice it's got some, like, carvings in Elven that read the name Icart. But that's about it.
Like.
Go ahead and actually roll just a straight intelligence check for me.
No, like modifiers or anything.
Well, it's just
Straight.
hang on, wait. If you're, yeah, just straight intelligence.
Why am I rolling like shit? Wait.
What is it?
Well, I rolled a 5. That's shit.
Okay, yeah, it's you.
Jeez.
It's you just know that's the name Icart, and that's about it.
Alright.
And then Illyris is like, "So, you interested? 5 gold for the whole package. Magic dust, a fairy flute, and my ex-wife's diary. What do you say?"
I like look at him and I'm like, is there any chance I could just get one thing?
And he kind of strokes his non-existent beard, because he, like I said, he has like a 5 o'clock shadow, so it's like there's no beard. And he's like, "All right, I might be able to part with one. What you looking at?"
I like kind of, I like look away for a second. And I'm like, this man is trying to run it by me. And then I just like turn back and I'm like, I like to read. So, you know.
All right.
I'm
Ex-wife's
for that,
diary.
that book.
All right, it's got some juicy shit. And then he's like, just 2 silver for that.
I'm like, how about, you know what? I'm feeling fruitful today. I give him the 2 silver.
Yes, thank you for your business. And he goes ahead and hands you the diary. And do you at least like want to check out any of the pages while you guys are walking? Because like you guys are still walking down this rather long kind of corridor in the mine shaft.
I want to like, okay, so like, is he gonna walk away now that he's done his drug deal?
More or less, like, so once he pockets the silver, he goes ahead and slides his hands back into his pockets, and he's like, "I once walked into the darkness," and he starts singing again, and then you hear Chisadri joining along and like harmonizing with him.
Alright, like, this isn't gonna be really good, but like, as he like hands me the book and like starts to walk away, I like candy, so I want to try to take this so-called flute
Oh my gosh.
from him.
Alright, make a sleight of hand check with advantage because he is plastered and he already made money off of you, so he doesn't give a crap.
Okay, and then fucking 17.
Yeah. So
Yes!
it's like as he's walking, you're just like and like he's sliding his hand right into his jacket pocket, and like as you use the fact that he's walking away, and like you just adjust your hand in the right like angles to where it doesn't at all touch his jacket, and there you go. You pull the so-called fairy flute, aka the half-eaten licorice rope, and he's none the wiser. He's just kind of walking along and just kind of swaying to his own music, and Chisadri's like, "Hey, and singing along with
Of course, my good rolls come in when I'm trying to steal from somebody.
it. What a great cleric.
The first roll was a 14. That's like higher than some of my other rolls combined.
Oh yeah, so now you have licorice and the diary. You probably add both of those to your inventory, because why not?
I'll do it later.
Okay. So while you're walking,
No,
I
putting ex-wife diary.
I want you to make a perception check for me.
I give it half. It's not black licorice, is it?
No, it's regular red.
Good. You said perception?
Yeah, perception.
I feel like that guy's cursed now. It gave me 2 good rolls, and it's like, nah, not after this one. Great. This one is +2. That is a 14.
Alright, so as you're walking along, and now the narrow path that you were just once walking has now broadened, and you're now in kind of like a, almost like a cylindrical room. You can tell that this was dug by miners, and there's various like broken equipment on the ground, and you actually notice like a chunk of silver kind of on the ground if you wanted to go ahead and pocket that. But as you're walking along and you're kind of heading into the next corridor, because in the cylindrical room there's another staircase heading down, or rather it's more like a slope heading further into the cave, you kind of hear a and you look around at the rest of the group, and the short-haired woman has stopped, and now she has her hand on her sword. Chisadri and Illuris are kind of walking on ahead, because why not? But Shul is still there, along with the short-haired woman, and you hear this weird chattering, and it doesn't sound like anything you're familiar with. And the short-haired woman looks at you and goes, and let's see, what does she do? I forgot what I had her equipped with. Get equipped with...
Good dice rolls.
So she goes ahead and reaches into that pouch you saw earlier where she pulled the firewood out from, and she grabs a handful of metallic ball bearings.
Oh,
And
she's gone now. Gotcha.
she goes ahead and tosses them down one of the other corridors that, like, most of them know this path well. Melgreen, who's also among the group with you guys, like, knows these paths, and he knows that's a dead end, but she tosses it that way. And suddenly you hear, and then you hear scattering footsteps, and out come 5 kobolds, like these very goblin-looking like creatures, but they're taller. They've actually got some muscle in their arms, and they're all carrying like clubs and like swords, and they look at you, and like the rest of the group, Shoal kind of hides behind the short-haired woman's legs and like is peering out at them, and it is time to roll initiative again.
Hell no. No. You know what? I'm not rolling that one. That one's giving me too many ones. This is gonna be great. Yay!
Oh no, what is it?
He rolled a 4.
Alright, let me go ahead and get this order set up.
That is cursed too. Where'd my yellow one go? While you're doing that.
Oh, wonderful. 4, none.
I'm gonna be like last. Great.
And then, let's see here. Alright, and I will go ahead and roll initiative for the rest of the cast. Ooh, not bad. Alright. That would be I can math. Not bad. Ooh, not as good. Ooh, yes.
Did my party member at least roll well?
Oh, you've actually got multiple party members this round.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, yes, one of the enemies rolled quite low.
Yes.
Ooh, second one rolled low.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's quite high, unfortunately.
Hey, they can roll high now, but everything else. No, please no.
Alright. Ooh, boy. So, top of the round, the short-haired woman goes first, and
Hells yeah.
so these guys, they are about 20 feet away, so they aren't quite within melee yet, but she's going to go ahead and, with her short bow, attack the closest one. So let's see what she rolls. So she goes and takes an arrow, notches it, but like as she does, like she'll accidentally like leans on her arm and pulls her arm, and like as she's about to release the bow, her hand goes slack and like the arrow falls right out. And yeah, she's like, well, shit, and she'll like, I'm so sorry, and then
That's great.
speaking of which, Shoal goes ahead and unsheathes his dagger, and he's going to throw it at the one that Short Woman was trying to attack. And let's see. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, please hit somebody. Because it's going to take forever for me to get a turn.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that definitely hits. All right, and then
Yes.
let's see his damage.
The Dragonborn.
1d4 plus, all right.
The Dragonborn 8-year-old.
Yes, Shoal is a badass. He throws that dagger with like precise aim, like he's feeling a little bad for making the short-haired woman miss her shot, and so he throws the dagger with insane precision. Like you would not have expected this from an 8-year-old. Like the dagger goes, and then the kobold like immediately collapses to the ground, and he is gone, and that leaves just 4 freaking kobolds left. Alright, let's see. Next in the round will be one of the kobolds, and let's see. So he's going to take his sling and, being quite upset with Shoal having killed one of his buddies, is going to sling a rock right at Shoal's head.
No, don't David and Goliath it.
So, oh, he actually rolls a disadvantage. Oh, perfect. So he slings it, and Shoal quickly hides behind the short-haired woman's legs, and the rock goes flying, and the kobold's like, and then,
So
all right. Next in the attack round, Melgrin, he is going to,
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about No Man.
yeah, he's going to take his freaking massive handgun, spin the barrel, and he's like, eat lead, bitch! And she's going to roll attack. And he goes ahead and fires at another kobold. Unfortunately, with how big these bullets are, he, like, his eyes are kind of squinted, and he didn't see very well, and, like, the recoil causes him to misfire. He's like, and, like, the bullet goes flying and hitting a rock formation, and, like, the rocks crumble, and he's like, well, that was bullshit. And he goes ahead and takes his hammer, and he's gonna run in to get in melee range with the one he was about to attack and take a swing. And, ooh, yeah, natural 20.
Yes!
All right,
man,
that is...
before I even get a chance to go.
Yep, Melgrin's going to go ahead and smash this dude's face in. So, with that, he is going to go ahead and roll. Ah. Okay. I mean, it's not as good as I was hoping. But he goes ahead and swings, and like the hammer has so much force that when he swings it, the kobold's face like almost doesn't have enough, like with the speed he's swinging at. The kobold doesn't even have time to react. He swings sideways and flattens the kobold's face without even smashing it against anything else. And that kobold is down. So
Hells yeah. We're
that
already down to 3.
that leaves 3. So let's see. Next in the turn order would be.
Probably not me.
Oh yeah, it looks like one of the other kobolds is gonna go next, and he saw Melgreen smash his buddy's head into a bloody pulp, and is going to go ahead and attempt to take a swing with his club, and a swing and a miss. He swings, and Melgreen isn't necessarily the most dexterous of people, but like he lifts his hammer and blocks the club, and he's like, no. And with that, it is finally your turn. So kind of giving you an idea of what the battlefield looks like. You've got 2 dead kobolds on the ground, one with a dagger in his face, and the other with no head anymore. And it's been pulverized, and the blood and guts are like smeared against Melgreen's hammer. And you see 3, and now they are about 13 feet away from you. What would you like to do? The closest one is about 12 feet away.
How close are they in relationship to you keep saying the short haired woman when I know her name.
Yeah.
Her and Skull.
And Shull.
Shull.
So her and Shull are actually kind of where you are, because both of them they haven't gotten in melee range like Melgreen did. So they're the closest one, like I said, is about 12 feet away, since that's like about how far away they are from you.
Okay. So they would end up going for the tiny man before they go for us. I'm gonna do more spell casting, and I have a cantrip.
Ooh.
I'm gonna cast Sacred Flame on. It's 60 feet.
Oh yeah, you have more than enough room.
It's like, one, I don't know, whichever one is the closest to Mel.
Alright, so that would be the one that went ahead and bashed him with the club. And...
Yeah.
Alright, so go ahead and roll an attack. So
it's a dex saving throw.
Okay, perfect. So I will go ahead and...
For you. So I guess I don't have to roll.
Okay, so let me go ahead and double check. Dex saving throw. Alright. He rolled a 15.
Fuck.
Does that miss?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you go ahead and send that Sacred Flame, and like he's already kind of on guard, having had his attack deflected from by Melgreen's hammer, and he watches as you send this flame after him, and he just kind of quickly moves out of the way. And he kind of laughs like, and is that the end of your turn?
I want to move. Well, we're all like in the same.
Yeah, you're all like in the middle of the cylindrical room. That's about like 20 feet on all sides, and these kobolds, the closest one's about 12 feet away.
I wanna go over to Shoal and be like, "You fuck that hit man with the dagger." Shit. It's like you're the only one hitting right now, man.
And he's like, "Yeah, I did it." All right, and is that your turn? All right. So, top of the round. Oh wait. Oh no, there's still one more kobold left, and that will be the one to the left. And since Melgreen is the closest, he is going to go ahead and he's going to get in melee range and take a swing with his club. And that is... I keep looking at the wrong character sheet.
Leave Tiny Man alone.
Ooh, yeah. That misses. He goes ahead and swings, and Melgreen is like, little goblin bastards. And he goes ahead and kind of swings his hammer at the club and goes, boom, and like the club goes flying, and like it forces the kobold's arm to kind of fly back with the force. And all right.
Even though they're all like roughly the same height, because he's a freaking gnome and they're goblins.
Yep.
He's like tiny goblin. He's like tiny goblin.
Yep.
Like my people.
And with that, that brings us to the top of the round. It is the short-haired woman's turn. I'm just going to call her Holly now, because you know anyway. It is now Holly's turn. So, having failed with her bow, she's going to go ahead and unsheath her rapier and go ahead and attack the closest one, or at least close the distance, and get close enough. Oh, that was almost terrible, but thank goodness for that. Alright, so she is most definitely going to hit.
Well, she was hitting in the first battle, so we can't all win it.
That's true. And let's see, with the rapier, that is a d8 plus 4. Alright, 7. And that would be perfect. So she goes ahead, and as she runs up, she freaking holds her sword with her left hand, like crosses over her chest, and like as she's running, she does like freaking full anime style, like slices all the way across and like straight up cuts the thing's head off somehow with the rapier, which is far more of a stabby stab weapon and not a cut weapon. But
definitely like
it's like it just oh yeah, she's like it's a clean cut, like there's no entrails left or anything, and it's like it's almost like the wound was cauterized upon being cut, which seems a little peculiar. And
this woman's got secrets.
with that will go ahead and end Holly's turn, and she went ahead and wiped out the one that was going to go next. So with that brings us to there are 2 left. So that brings us to Melgreen's turn.
Well, I'm not doing shit this time.
And he's like, hell yeah! And he goes ahead and he's going to go ahead and swing at the one he's been engaged with, and that misses. He rolled a fucking 2. And he's so excited by freaking seeing Holly get into the fray, and he swings, and the kobold kind of like he's feeling all ninja after having dodged your sacred flame and his hammer. And he's like, whoa, and like quickly dodges out of the way of the hammer, and he just kind of laughs. All right, and then and I totally forgot about Shull's turn, but he no longer has a weapon, so he is just going to stay behind and try to stay away from these enemies. So that brings
I don't have a weapon.
That brings us to the kobold closest to Holly. However, he is going to try to throw his sling at you. So let me make sure I'm getting the attack.
I'm gonna have to roll super fucking high.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's see. Oh nope. So that is a plus 7. Miss.
Did you just ask me whether or not a 7 hits?
Yeah. He takes a sling and like he's charging it up, but like he's getting so into charging it, he doesn't realize that he's already flung the rock. It freaking hits the ceiling, comes right back down, and crashes onto his head, and he takes 1 point of bludgeoning damage. So that finally brings us to your turn. So you've got that one that just tried to attack you, and the one that's currently in melee with Melgreen. What would you like to do?
Are they all, like, relatively the same,
like distance away?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're both about, like, 13 feet away.
Since, not like I'm hitting anything either, but since Mel's missing so much, I want to close the distance with the one that he's fighting and take a swing at it with my mace.
Alright, go ahead and roll attack. What'd you roll?
A natural fucking 20.
Oh, that's gonna be a crit.
Yes, finally.
So
finally, and that's not even including the +2 that I get with the mace. That's not. I got a fucking 22. Fucking finally! Jeez. Now explain this crit.
So that's actually what I'm trying to find out, because this is the first natural 20 in the game.
Hells yeah! Yeah!
Alright, so let me make sure I understand, because...
Yes. I'm not
Okay.
even fucking lying. Like, I just picked it up.
Okay, I see. So I was right. So you double the dice. So whatever you roll for attack, you get to roll twice. Or, I think, yeah. For now, that's what we'll go with, and if I'm wrong, we'll correct it later.
So I just roll 2 die then?
Yeah, roll 2 attack for damage.
Okay. It's both. So it's 2 d6. Check out that die. Oh, fuck.
Oh, pfft.
I'm gonna just look at that. It's 5.
All right, that is just enough. How would you like to take care of this one?
Just like, I'm like coming up, and I want to do, I want to kind of like swing the mace, like as I'm running. I want to kind of be like Holly, not like full-fledged anime style, but like, you know, I'm just like running up and I'm like, Mel, you fucking missed, and just like, just like whack it,
Yes.
and then it just like goes.
Oh yeah, so yeah, like more than good enough. I'm like, this kobold's been getting cocky, and he's all laughing, and he's all feeling all ninja and blah blah blah. And then you come up and like, Millie, you fucking missed, and you bash its head against the cave wall. Blood splatters. That one is now down. Why did I turn my phone off? This is where I have my notes. And
It's like, fucking finally. It's like,
that
come on, yo.
takes care of that one. And
What's on the one?
stop with the computer. Okay, I had to make sure the audio was still going. All right. So there is one left, and it is the one Holly is taking care of. And lo and behold, she's going. She's going to go ahead and do a stab.
And hopefully she doesn't missy miss.
Let's see. Ooh. Oh yeah, of course that doesn't miss. She has a freaking +9. So, yeah. She goes ahead and stabs, and then, what is that, a D6 or D8 +4? That's not a D8. Oh. Yeah. Oh, that's cocked. Alright.
Small ass table.
8. So yeah, she goes ahead and she stabs right through the forehead, and like the kobold's eyes kind of go wide, and it's like, and she pulls it out, and the body falls to the floor. And all 5 kobolds have been taken care of.
Hell yeah.
And Melgreen kind of looks at the blood on his hammer, and he's like, and then Holly's like, we need to get moving. And meanwhile, Shul's like, wait, where are the other 2? And thankfully, you hear them both singing in the distance in the corridor. And Holly rolls her eyes and she's like, fuck that guy for making me worry. And she goes ahead and walks down the corridor. And then Shul and Melgreen follow. Do you follow as well?
I want to investigate the bodies.
Alright, go ahead and make an investigation check.
I know it's not plus anything, so I remember. Fuck. It's a 4. Well, I know that his dagger.
Oh,
is
yeah?
in the bodies.
So you can totally go and grab Shul's dagger if you want, because he didn't grab it.
I'll take it.
Alright, so you now have just a regular dagger, though it does belong to Shul. And yeah, you can't really find anything else on these guys. Like, they just basically wear burlap sacks for clothes, so they don't, like, as far as you could tell, they don't have any pockets on them or anything, but you go ahead and just pull the bloody dagger out of the dead one's head. Then now you have a bloody dagger in your possession. Anything else you want to do?
Nah, I'm just gonna follow.
Alright. You go ahead and follow, and you go ahead and continue walking down this corridor, and it's kind of spiraling around a little bit. And the entire time, Melgreen's like, we found it, everyone! We found it! And you go ahead and make a perception check for me real quick, actually.
I know I have. I can't remember at the moment. It's 13.
All right. So it takes a little bit for you to walk ahead and see what they mean, because like the corridor you've been walking down is pretty narrow, and like you've got other people in front of you, and Holly and Aluris are pretty tall, so like you can't really see past them. But then you finally uh, enter this room. It actually looks more like a proper room than a cave. Like there are kind of like wooden corners at the edges, and like there are wooden pillars kind of stacked against the walls. And ahead, you can see a really large wooden minecart. And it's made with like reinforced silver and steel, like with steel bolts inside. The general body is made of like really thick mahogany, and like it's got very well oiled wheels. And Melgreen kind of puts his hand on it, and he's like, "You see, this is my pride and joy. It takes anyone from Ishtorai all the way to Oralivia." And Shul looks at it and he's like, "Does this mine really go that far?" And Holly just kind of nods and she's like, "Yes, it does." And she looks up at you and she's like, "This is what we came here for."
Hell yeah.
Let's see. Alright, so with that being the case, Melgreen looks and he's like, "Alright, so we need an engine. I can build one, but I need the parts first." And he gestures, and looking around the room, you actually do see there are quite a few, like, doorways. And he's like,
If he's a freaking blacksmith, of course this is his mind.
"Oh yeah," he's like, "This is where I go to get silver to anoint the weapons with blessed powers that can wipe out monsters that can normally not be defeated by steel nor iron. Anyway," oh, that voice is hurting my throat. He's like, "Let's go ahead and search the rooms for parts and see if we can get this engine built." And then everyone kind of disperses, and so you have 6 choices. There are 6 different rooms. There are like 3 on each wall, and like there's the corridor ahead of you that just kind of leads into darkness, and that's where the mine cart tracks kind of go. And you assume that's where this mine cart will take you once you have the engine to properly propel it. So you've got the southwest room, west room, northwest, and then northeast, east, or southeast. Which would you like to check?
I didn't recall anything you just said. Let's go. Can I... What's everybody else doing right now?
So Shul is just kind of following Holly at this point because like you can see they've just kind of based on their earlier interactions, they've probably known each other for a while. But they're going into the western room. Ilaris and I forgot her name, Chisadri. They're heading into another room and just kind of singing together, and you can tell Ilaris is really drunk now. He's probably been drinking along the way. And Chisadri is just having the time of her life, just hanging out with this weird drunk dude. And then Melgreen is just kind of, he's examining the minecart. He's not going searching, but he's making sure all the parts are still in working order. So what would you like to do?
I want to first take out the dagger and kind of like wipe the blood away. Not like noticeably like on my clothes, but like in a spot where like nobody would notice.
Oh yeah, and that's easy enough. Yeah, you do it.
And then I want to go and follow after. I'm gonna head to the west.
Okay, so you're gonna follow Holly and Shul.
Mm-hmm.
All right, easy enough. So you head in right as they're already heading in, and walking into this room, it would be pitch black if not only you had dark vision, or if you didn't have dark vision, but Holly is carrying a torch because like she's only human, so she doesn't. So she kind of needs the light to see. But like,
oh, we know that.
Okay. So immediately walking into the room, you notice that it looks kind of like an office space in a way. Like there's a It's kind of like a plastic chair. There's like a wooden dresser with various drawers. There are a couple photographs of, I mean, you don't really need to make perception, but you can definitely immediately notice Mel Green in a lot of these photos, like with his big beard and his giant freaking hands. And you can tell this is an office space. And Holly is kind of already looking around searching, and Shoal is just kind of standing behind, like his hands kind of clutched to his chest, and he's just kind of looking around.
Okay. So I want to take the dagger back out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then not like visibly out. It's just like I have it at the ready.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like ready to stab, but like I have it at the ready.
I get you.
And I walk over to Shoal, and I like with the non-dagger with the non-dagger hand, I put my hand out, like pat him on the head.
And like as soon as you do, he kind of jumps, like he's like, definitely quite jittery. Oh yeah. Even so, and he's like, he turns around, and he's like, oh, okay, it's just you.
And I go, and then I like I'm holding it so the blade is like towards me, and in my hand I like slowly like pull, and I go, you left something back there, and hand him his dagger.
And he kind of smiles and looks at it, and he's like, I totally forgot, thank you. And he grabs it, and he goes ahead and kind of slides it back into its leather sheath, and he looks at you and he's like, oh, are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm all good, man.
Good.
How about you?
Oh, I'm okay. Just, I don't know, everything's freaking me out, you know?
Yeah, a lot has happened, but
yeah.
You're holding it in there. You're a tough man.
And he just kind of smiles, but then you hear Holly going, and she's like, hey, I don't mean to be strict, but we do have guys chasing after us. I kind of appreciate if you guys started looking. And then Shoal's like, oh, okay. And he kind of turns towards you, and he like holds his fist out.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and you just bump his fist, yeah. And then he goes ahead and he starts searching the room. So what would you like to do?
Look, we'd cover more if more of us search different rooms. I wanna just like turn back, like facing like the way out, like slight like wave, like back into the room, and then walk back out of the room. Low-key just went in there just to give him the dagger back.
Alright, that's totally understandable. So yeah, easy enough. You go ahead and wave, and you kind of see Shoal wave happily, and as you leave the room, what would you like to do? You still see Mel Green just kind of working on his card. And, you hear some rummaging in the room that Luris and Trisadri went to investigate.
It's like...
So it's like so I'll show it from like your perspective. It's like a rectangular room with the corridor where the mine cart tracks kind of lead out. And there are 3 doors on each wall.
I want to go into the one that no one's in.
There are multiple that no one's in.
Although I want to go in one of them that no one is in.
Alright, so then I guess for the sake of just kind of efficiency, you go ahead and, since it's closed, you just go ahead and go into the northwestern room, which is right next to the one you were just in. And go ahead and make a perception check.
I'm good at that, somewhat. As soon as I say that...
Oh, no.
Well, first and foremost, I rolled a natural 1.
Oh, boy.
I'm getting a lot of 1s today. That's a 3.
Alright, so I mean...
I need to stop rolling that die.
You can see the general layout of the room, but unlike the room you were just in, this one appears to have been formerly an office. It's actually almost set up the same way that the last room was, only the desk is shattered, the chair is shattered, the dresser, all the drawers are pulled open, some of them on the ground, and they're all emptied out completely of their contents. And there are pictures hung up all along the wall, but they all have like puncture wounds in them, and they're all shattered. And all you can tell is this room is pretty much the same as the one you were just in, only someone came in and must have ransacked the place. Like you can't see anything you can pull from this place.
Holy crap. It'd be like, walk into a room just to walk back out.
Yeah, and so
Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
so you do hear, hey, and then like you kind of turn around and you can see Iloris and Chisadri coming out, and they're holding this giant bronze mechanical thing you aren't aware of. It's got like it's very rusted, and it's got like all sorts of pipes, and it's got like a gear as well, and it's got like a what looks like an iron wire. And Melgreen clasps his giant hands together, which causes like an echoing clap down the corridor, and he's like, yes, that is perfect. Come on, hand it to me. And he goes ahead and he's kind of humming some sort of like old dwarven folk song to himself while he's going to work. And like everyone starts gathering. Do you leave the room that you're in?
The room's just like everything is like in rubble.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah, like with your perception check, you can't really see anything salvageable.
Whoa. That's my perception. You said it's set up like the other room.
Yeah, it's set up like the other room, but like completely in ruin. And like all the drawers have been taken out, or like all the contents have been removed.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave.
Alright.
Fucking perception.
So you go ahead and walk out, and you hear, and like as Melgreen is like getting this engine affixed to this minecart, and Shoal, he's kind of like holding on to Holly's arm, and he's like, is this really gonna work? And Melgreen's like, of course it'll work. You know how I do things. And then
Man, swole.
he finally does it, and right as he does, he stands up and clasps his hands, and he's like, all right, finished. And then something fast and something shadowy passes through. Like Melgreen's eyes go wide, and you look at his temples, and there are holes in both sides of his head, and he starts bleeding black, and he collapses to the ground, and everyone's in a panic now, and like Iloris kind of freaks out, like, Melgreen, and then Holly's like, no time for that, and she tosses Shoal onto the minecart and gestures for the other two to get on. She hops in herself, and she looks at you and she's like, well, come on, get on. Do you get onto the minecart with them?
Hold on. Is he just like dead?
He is dead. He just collapsed on the ground. Something flew through his head as fast as a bullet. He is gone.
Yeah, I'm gonna get on too. Just like.
Alright, so the moment you get on, Holly goes ahead and like she kind of sticks her rapier into the ground and kind of gives a little push, and Iloris is in the back, and he pulls like one of the wires from the engine here, and like it startles to life, and like the minecart, like almost like a roller coaster, starts going down this mine shaft, and you're speeding downhill, and it's just the wind is in all your faces, and you watch, and like you look as Melgreen's lifeless body just kind of fades away from view, and
like as I'm watching, I'm like, no, man. But it's like quick, like tiny itty bitty like prayer, like before, like the rush of the roller coaster.
Oh yeah, and as you're watching, you see the two mages walk up. They lift up Melgreen's body, and they throw it down the mine shaft tracks, and it's barreling towards you now. And he's rolling kind of slow. The engine works fast, but like you watch his body like starting to pick up momentum, and then you look up, and the mages are gone.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And,
It's like a fucking horror story.
and the minecart, like you're all shifting with the weight of this minecart, and it's like an insane roller coaster ride. And after seeing Mel Green's body drop dead like that, I want you to make a wisdom saving throw.
Fuck. Don't give me this crap. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. I don't know what. This is the natural 20. I think this is the At least I have advantage.
Mhm.
That is 16.
Oh, just barely fails. So
What?
Yeah.
Fucking-
after seeing that body, it's like your mind flashed back to the day that it all began, and you remember seeing your father's body collapse the same way that Mel Green just did, and you just a wave of just dread and despair washes over you, and suddenly nothing else matters anymore, and you're just kind of staring behind you, like not even caring about the mine carts like shifting, throwing you around, and all you can see is your father collapsing and your presumed mother just kind of standing above you, blaming you for his death. And you're paralyzed. For the moment, you can't feel anything. You can't even feel the minecart anymore. And you just see that scene replaying in your head over and over again. And then you look into the distance and you can see a bright orange glow. And you hear a voice in your head, and it says, "Don't worry, that's all history now." And then you snap right back out of it, and you can hear everyone screaming, and you look back at the minecart, and it's actually on fire at this point. And you can see another fireball heading right towards your way, and you can see that Shoal has been knocked to the ground, and he does not look good. He is burning. Like, he is on fire.
Dragonborn.
He's trying to pat it out of his clothes, but like it's just he's kind of like freaking out, and Aloris and Chisadri are patting it out as well, and Holly looks back and she looks at you and she says, "I don't know if we're gonna make it," and I want you to go ahead and make a religion check with advantage.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I'm proficient in that. So, yeah. Okay. Ooh, those were some decent rolls. Let's see. 17.
Not bad. So, like, just hearing Holly say those words, for just a single instant, you can feel, like, just that dread setting in, but then something snaps you out of it. You don't know if it was that voice or what, but, like, a sudden surge of, "No, we can do this," builds up within you. You go ahead and head
I'm freaking Makoto.
yeah. Oh, never dies, whatever it is. And then you go ahead and go to the front of the cart, and you look back at those two mages, and like you can see them. They are kind of floating behind you, and they're each still preparing more fire to shoot at you. And you just kind of glare at them. You don't feel any fear anymore. You go ahead and you're controlling this cart. This is now yours. It's like you're doing what Melgreen can't, and you are going to take these people outside of this
Hell
minecart alive.
Hell yeah.
I want you to go ahead and roll initiative for me.
Alright. The good die.
Yes.
The good die. Oh. I mean, it's a 12.
All right, that's
It's like
it's not
middle of
bad.
the road.
It's like I still gotta.
It's like middle of the road. I'm happy I didn't roll that one. Ooh, I should have rolled that one. That one. That one rolled a natural 20.
Alright, hang on. So you rolled a 12, right?
Yeah.
Alright, let me roll initiative for the first guy. Ooh. Alright, and then initiative for the second guy. Oh, alright. So, you're controlling this minecart. It's your thing now. However, the blonde-haired mage, you can see his face clearly now, and his black eyes have now turned red, and they're basically glowing in the darkness. He is going to go ahead and cast... I should have studied his magic earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, I see. So he's going to go ahead and cast Cone of Cold. So a blast of cold air is going to erupt, and he's going to kind of use the opposite of what he's been using. And go ahead and make a Constitution saving throw. Hang on, let me make sure I see the DC.
You want to get a +1 on him? Like, that's gonna do me much.
Oh, shit.
Don't say that. 15.
Oh, yeah, that fails.
Fuck.
So you go ahead and feel this cold, and it's like it's just chill entirely around your body. So let me go ahead and roll damage here.
I'm gonna fucking die. No. Don't laugh like that.
Right on time, Shull stands up, and he breathes fire right at the cone. And unlike the last blast, this one is massive, and when it completely absorbs this cone and counteracts it, and it's like it's two spells colliding. It's like Harry Potter and Voldemort. It's like it's like their spells are bouncing together, and then Chisadri stands up. She holds a single hand up, and you see pulses of blue just shooting out from her hand. Allura starts doing the same thing with his right hand. It covers the minecart in a shield. And then Shull stops breathing his fire, and you see this cold envelop this shield with ice. It almost fogs it up, but that doesn't stop you from taking its course. And with that, you are completely protected from a spell that would have mortally killed you.
Holy
It was
crap.
8d8 of damage.
Holy crap.
Go. What are you going to do?
Oh my gosh. Man, look. That's absolute crap.
Level 18. These are the guys you're facing.
Look, that is. Should have fucking stealthed at the beginning. I didn't think about it. It was the beginning.
Well, it's okay. You've got this freaking unbreakable determination, so you're just gonna.
I'm not gonna freaking crap. We're in a freaking minecart. They're like flying behind us.
Yeah. They are probably about 30 feet away from you right now.
I mean, give me a second. Freaking.
And they're constantly getting further away because you're riding really fast.
I want. I'm gonna see something. Stop D&D Beyond.
D&D Beyond, everybody.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 80. I want to. This is probably really stupid, but like, I'm gonna like one hand on the whatever I'm using to like steer the cart and like this is my dominant hand. Like over the shoulder, like I'm gonna like whisper like a slight like prayer. Like I don't know what the fuck this voice is, but help me right now and all of us right now. I got this right now. And I'm just gonna like use my crossbow and like try to shoot one. Just to like try to like somewhat like I don't know, like confuse them, some shit.
Alright, so go ahead and make a quick religion check for me.
I'm on something else. So I'm gonna switch over. Okay. I'm proficient. 16.
Alright, so clear as day, you feel that gentle warmth and that familiarity you feel every time this voice is spoken to you. And clear as day, almost as if you hear that person right beside you in person. You just hear, "Your wish is my command." Go ahead and roll attack. With advantage.
Yes. Thank God. What?
What?
Well, I'm gonna just tell you I fucking missed.
Well, what
I
was...
fired twice and I missed.
What is the... What?
I rolled a 4 and a 5.
Well, even so, you go ahead and fire. As you see the bolt glowing, you can tell you missed, and you can kind of feel that dread setting in again. It's like, oh shit, did I just mess up? You see the bolt begin to glow as it's flying into the darkness. It corrects itself. The glow begins to emit again, and it's almost illuminating the entire mineshaft right into the heart of the blonde-haired mage. And he clutches his chest, and he falters, and you see the brown-haired one who is still flying behind him. He kind of stops and grabs, and he reaches for the bolt. It burns his hand, and he stares at you, and the minecart just keeps moving, and they just disappear into the darkness.
Hell fucking yeah! And I'm like, I don't even notice. Like, I'm just like, oh, fucking miss. Like, I hope we don't. Like, and I just like, I'm like, pray. I'm like, holding. Like, oh, please. Like, almost in tears. Like, oh, fucking. Just like, ah.
And with that,
I legitimately like just got chills.
D&D. You no longer hear them. You no longer hear the sound of their magic, their attempts to cover you with fire or ice. All you hear, the group has settled into silence, and you just hear the clacking of the wheels against the minecart. You continue your trip. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And it takes almost 4 hours until you finally see daylight again. You see the light kind of fill the caves of this mineshaft, and the minecart starts kind of slowly crawling uphill, the engine kind of using the last bit of its energy. And almost as though Melgreen's passing gave it just the push it needed, it helps finish the push uphill until you're finally on just that slow, just regular incline. The minecart squeals to a stop. You look around, and you can see that the night has passed. You spent all night in this mineshaft, and you can see the sun slightly coming up above the horizon to the west or the east. And you look behind you. Those mountains are long behind you. You look forward, and you can see a gentle river kind of flowing. You can hear it, and you hear the birds singing. And ahead of you, you can see the buildings of another outpost. This one's much larger. And everyone kind of gets out of the minecart, Holly included, and they're all just kind of silent for a moment. Even Chisadri is silent, and she kind of nods, and she's all, well, I guess we made it. And no one else really knows what to say. And Holly kind of looks at Ilaris, and she goes, so Cassandra and I have some business in this town. What do you think you'll do? And he goes, I guess I'll take Shoal and Chisadri with me. I'll assure they stay safe. And you look at Shoal, and he's just kind of got this distant stare, and he's looking out at the river, and he hears the mention of his name. And he goes, okay, I'll keep going. And he looks at you, and he says, we just gotta keep moving forward, right?
Yeah,
and,
man.
And he goes along with Ilaris and Chisadri, and they walk, and Chisadri's kind of smiling, and she's starting to sing in a far more beautiful tone than she did initially, and kind of trying to cheer Shoal up, and Ilaris joins her in song, and they just kind of sing as they walk into the distance, and Holly looks at you, and she goes, well, that village there is our destination. It's there that we'll meet the others. Are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
All right. And she smiles, and with that, she goes ahead and leads you towards the village, and you follow. And that is where we'll pick up in the main story.
Holy crap! Jesus Christ!
I almost died.
Yeah, that freaking spell dealt 8d8 worth of damage.
It wasn't my fault.
These guys were level 18. It was not worth fighting them, so...
I wasn't trying to fight them.
Oh, I know. I'm glad you didn't either, but...
Didn't say he saw them on the freaking train, and I'm like, deuces, man.
That was the longest prologue we've had so far. Let's see, how long have we been going? Almost 4 hours.
Oh my god.
That's gonna be the length of like a regular episode, and that was just for your character's
Man.
prologue.
That's your fault.
Oh, I know. What'd you think, though? Like
That was awesome. Like, legitimately, like, right at the end, I legitimately did get chills. I was like, please, I don't want to die again.
Shoal is a badass.
He is. He freaking... He hit when Holly didn't even hit.
Yeah, and then freaking breathing fire to stop that
He's
cone of
like, no.
ice.
He's like, no. Oh my god.
And then, yeah, I think that's my favorite prologue chapter so far. It definitely had the most fun cast, and I think I'm getting the hang of this DM thing.
Man, that was...
And
I wish my rolls were better.
You're a great player, though. Like, you picked up on the rules quick. Like, that was
Man.
awesome.
Oh.
Anyway, next weekend, or next Wednesday, I suppose, it's my weekend because it's my night off from work. Hopefully we will get the fourth, and for now, final prologue chapter out of the way before we begin the main story. Like I said earlier, we do have 2 more players, but I'm not sure where they are in character building, so we'll just do this one last prologue chapter with our last player, who is ready, and once that's done, we will go ahead and move on with the main story. So with that, I hope you guys have a fantastic evening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Peace.